What's up, everyone? We are live with another Dungeon Master roundtable. Is this kind of like the, what is it, inside the actor studio kind of thing? Or like they did kind of a more modern version where it's just a bunch of actors sitting around, like talking about the craft? This is just kind of like a bunch of like, us nerds sitting around talking about our D&D uh, habits and addiction. I guess this is our version of it, so. Um, but hello again, everyone. We're here back for another episode of What's the Crack Marra, and I'll let Sammy explain that when I hand it over to him. But I just wanted to start off by letting people know about the charity that we are raising money for. It started off with Pride Month, but kind of, to me, felt kind of disingenuous to just keep something like that to Pride Month. So we're collecting money for the Trevor Project, which is an organization that offers programs and assistance, through reach out and in other means to help the more at-risk people in the LGBTQ plus community. I mean, they do generally work and support the LGBTQ plus community, but they have a lot of focus on those who are in more danger. And right now, with the sociopolitical landscape of the United States, they are needed more now than ever because the LGBTQ plus community is pretty much under attack, and they need all the help that they can get. So if you can, spare some money, if you feel like you can, donate. Like obviously, don't strain your own bank account doing it. But if you can help, that would be greatly appreciated. The link is down below. You can see, where is it? Up there on my screen. Over there's a the meter to measure our goals, and thanks to help from some of my cast members, Virla, who is not currently with us today, though she might actually be somewhere in chat at some point. Chat. Yeah, there she is. Virla, you're out there. Has come up with some pretty damned cool ideas for, to meet the goal and then stretch goals for what happens afterward. And she's got some pretty interesting things that she's going to be introducing, up to and including, I know you, up to and including a potential battle royale between the cast of all 4 of my streaming campaigns. So we'll see how we do there. So if we hit those stretch goals, you'll get to see the cool shit. I believe the first goal that we will go for would be the Pocky 1-chip challenge. So you guys aren't aware of what that is. It is a single tortilla chip that sits at somewhere around 2 million on the Scoville scale. And if you are not familiar with what the Scoville scale is, let's just put it this way: jalapenos are about 800 on the Scoville scale. So if you can't handle that heat, don't even touch this chip. I've done it twice before. I've raised a good amount of money doing it, so apparently people enjoy seeing me suffer that way. So that is going to be like the first goal, and then thereafter is going to be awesome stretch goals for including things like one-shots and things like that people might be able to participate in. So if you can help, like I said, the link is down below in my About section. There is a QR code, and here is the direct link if you wanted to do that. Just to let you know, if you're going to be playing any of my stream loot cards today, we won't be actually entertaining them, so save your stream loot cards and use those for when we're actually on a game, so that you can affect it there. But other than that, that's it for me. If you want to find out my schedule, you can find that on my Discord, follow all my socials, and I'm turning it over to your host today, representing BBC4, Sammy, take it away, my good man.
Oh my days. Okay. Yes, I will try my best, and I'm going to talk for a little bit, so I apologize in advance, but hopefully I can throw it over to these four lovely humans for a different perspective. But yes, welcome to What's the Crack, Marra. If you've never tuned into one of these streams before or seen our associated videos, what this basically is a roundtable talk with dungeon masters. I am the odd one out. That is why I am the host. And we've been doing these for a little while. This is our fourth one. Basically, what we've been doing is we've been covering the playtest documents that Wizards of the Coast have released for the next iteration of D&D. When they first publicized this, it was called 1D&D. They basically scrapped that since. It just seems like they're going with keeping it with 5th edition, but basically just revamping the rules, and that's starting in 2024. So yeah, like I said, this is the fourth stream that we've done of these. The last one we did was actually way back in March, so we're probably all a little bit rusty, including myself. And yeah, basically we're kind of going to skip Unearthed Arcana 5, which just came out between now and then, and we're going to primarily focus on Unearthed Arcana 6, which came out last week. Just because it's more current and it makes more sense to cover that one. And yeah, just to also, for full disclosure, to kind of explain what crack is. It's not the drug. It's a Cumbrian slang word for basically information, chat, that type of thing. So like, what's going on? What's the news? Basically, just to explain that a little bit. But yeah, how this is going to work is we're going to see how much we get through, but there's going to be a couple of sections. The first one's going to be on weapon mastery, and then we're going to dive into some of the classes that are being released. And the first one's going to be the monk, because the monk is the only class that hasn't been released yet. Some of the classes have been released in a couple of iterations and updated, and we'll see those with the druid, the paladin, and the cleric. But we're gonna go with monk first, but we're gonna do weapon masteries because that's kind of gonna cascade down into some of the other things we're gonna talk about. So but what I think we're going to do first, just so everyone is familiar with who I am and who everyone else is, we'll do some intros. So I am Sam or Sammy. If you are a regular on Matt's streams, you'll know that I play Charlotte Briarsong in the Strixhaven game, which airs on every Saturday. And like I said, I don't have any DM experience apart from running a 3-shot. But I have been playing the game since 2015, so basically since 5th edition came out. So I'm pretty experienced there, and I'll be able to hold the conversation. But yeah, that's kind of an intro from me. I'll pass it over to our newest member, Bex, who I'm so excited for you to be joining us today, Bex. So yeah, if you could give the audience just a little intro as to maybe just who you are and a little bit about your DM experience.
Okay. Hi. I'm Becky or Bex. I'm new here. Hi. Um, I have been DMing since high school. So about 8 years-ish ago, I started with Pathfinder First Ed. Not a great place for beginners to start, I'm gonna be honest. But I trucked through and made it and kept it up as a hobby, kept my friends interested in it, and it's something I pretty much do every week. It's definitely one of the things I'm most passionate about on my day to day. I literally cannot not think about D&D. I think it's kind of getting to being a problem.
No, nice. And yeah, like one of the things we wanted to do with this, if you've seen the other previous 3 episodes, was it was predominantly all male dominated, and unfortunately, the RPG cast is actually like 90% made up of members of the LGBTQ plus community, but almost none of those were dungeon masters. So we wanted to make a conscious effort to make things a bit more diverse. So we've got Bex today. We were meant to have another new member in Rhiannon. Unfortunately, it seems like they've had some double booking plans, shall we say. So hopefully they can join us in the future. But yeah, I'll throw it over to we'll do Jordan next. So a quick intro, Jordan.
Oh, hello. I'm Jordan. I am the DM over at Bridges and Brigands. I have 10 years-ish, give or take, experience DMing. And it's my favorite thing to do. Took a break thanks to COVID and other things, but back on it and back to running games, and it's great.
Nice. Jack, take it away.
Hello, I'm Jack. I stream with Fate of the Dice. We have a Curse of Strahd stream every other week and on Sundays, and the 9th is going to be our next session. I've been DMing for about 2.5, 3 years, mostly with Sammy, where we did our own Curse of Strahd campaign, and now with Sammy and Jordan, we've got Descent into Avernus.
Nice. And the main man himself, I guess we'll hear from you.
Oh, you didn't call me what you usually call me. I was fully expecting the old man comment. Well, I'm Matt from RolePositiveGaming. You kind of know that if you're here. But I've been DMing for a few years. About almost 43 years, actually. Yes, I began with Redbox and I was in grade school at the time. So yeah, I began with Redbox, colored in my own dice with a crayon that it came with, which was quite convenient. And yeah, I picked up the dice and I never really put them down. I know a lot of dungeon masters out there who will do it for a time and then they kind of get out of it and they step away and then they'll come back. No, I've been consistently running D&D and or any TTRPGs a lot of times with the developers themselves throughout my career as a dungeon master, continuously the entire time. So yeah, I've been involved in the industry for a little bit. So that's pretty much me.
I like what Jordan normally calls you, like Twitch's longest running DM. I think that's a great.
Yeah,
it's a great title.
Most experienced DM.
I don't know about most, but I am definitely among a very, very short list of people.
I don't know.
Yeah,
43 years with so many games.
I thought like my godparent at like 30 plus was like crazy, and I'm like, yeah, that's the most. That's like the most people do.
Nope.
No.
No, I have actually played with Gary Gygax at a
That's
convention.
So
what
I wouldn't give to be in that seat, honestly.
He is as crusty as you think he would be. He's got this really odd, crunchy sense of humor. Had, rest in peace, but yes, he had like this air about him that kind of, he's how you picture that weird uncle always being in every family. That's how he comes across. That's the energy that Gary Gygax came to the table with. So it was definitely an experience.
Who doesn't love a weird uncle?
Okay, so I think that'll conclude our intros, so everyone's familiar with everybody. We'll get right into the meat of it. So, like I said, we're going to start with weapon mastery. So this is kind of a new thing that they're bringing with 5th edition. A lot of the I've never played any of the editions, but a lot of the things you'll probably see/hear maybe akin to some things that were introduced in previous editions of D&D. So yeah, I'm going to talk for a little bit and kind of just summarize some of the updates that they've brought to the weapons. The first one is that now each weapon has one of these mastery properties, which is a special property that requires a feature to unlock. The master properties are described in the Unearthed Arcana document 6, which I will link to you in the chat right now.
Hey, Sammy,
magic.
when you reference something, can you tell me what page it is on the doc, just so that I can scroll down so that people at home can see?
I think
So
this
when we're
one's
talking
page
about
3.
something, I want to be able to put it up so that they can read along.
Yeah, give me
I'm
one
in the
second.
document 6, so.
So this is yeah, we're doing 5 right now.
Okay.
Basically, you want to be at the bottom of page 1, and we're gonna make our way down.
Got
So,
it. Yeah, just whenever you update it, let me know, and I will adjust as needed.
Yeah, so to carry on that list of weapon updates, the short sword has returned to being a martial weapon. The net, which doesn't deal damage, is now classed as adventuring gear rather than a weapon. The trident's damage dice has changed from a 1d6 to a 1d8, and its versatile dice is now 1d10 rather than 1d8. The lance has the heavy and two-handed properties rather than the special property, which was a property that imposed disadvantage on some of its attack rolls. And its damage dice has changed from a d12 to a d10. The war pick now has the versatile property. The musket and the pistol now appear in the martial weapons ranged table. And the thrown property now allows you to draw a weapon as part of the ranged attack. So that's a summary of the weapon updates. Now, just to talk about some of these weapon properties that have changed, there's 2 in particular. One I just talked about, but the first one is light, the light property. So this basically still works like it does in 5e, but there was a previous iteration of this in one of the earlier play tests. And basically, if you know what that was, and we'll recap it, don't worry, but that is now part of a mastery property called Nick, Nick. And like I just said in the bottom of that previous summary, the thrown weapon property you can now draw as part of the attack, which is a nice little buff for that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to dive into the actual properties themselves. I'll read them out for you, and then I'll basically throw it over to one of the DMs, and they can tell me if it's good, bad, or indifferent. So yeah, so we're on the cleave now, Matt. I don't know if you've moved down to match that, but cleave starts on
Yeah, I'm on page 3.
Yes. So these weapon masteries come with prerequisites. So basically, the prerequisites for cleave are a melee weapon and a melee weapon with the heavy property. So cleave states that if you hit a creature with a melee attack using this weapon, you can make an attack roll with the weapon against a second creature within 5 feet of the first that is also within your reach. On a hit, the second creature takes the weapon's damage, but you don't add your ability modifier to that damage unless that modifier is negative, and you can only make this extra attack once per turn. So it's pretty self-explanatory. It's your classic cleave. I know some people implement this as like a homebrew rule, maybe slightly flavored differently. But yeah, let's throw this one over to our newbie, Bex. Bex, talk to me about cleave.
There you go. Throw you right in the deep end.
Oh, thank you. Definitely. So since I started with Pathfinder and we had like a big old martial class the first time I played, when we got to like selecting feats and like cleave and greater cleave were there, I'm like, this is so cool. Just thinking about the idea of them like swinging straight through, and I'm like, that's awesome. Love that. Switch to 5e. Where is it? Where'd it go? I think it's gonna be definitely fun. I think it gives those people who like, because a lot of my friends like combat. A lot of the people I DM for like combat. A lot of them like to hit things many times over and over again with big weapons. So I definitely think for those like frontliners, it's going to be really nice, especially if you're the tank and getting swarmed, being able to have that like second hit's going to be cool. Kind of looking at the ability modifier, unless it's negative. Cool, I guess add the negative in it. Sure. I'm not sure why they wouldn't just say, don't add your ability modifier. Just don't. I mean, I feel like that's how a lot of people like homebrew rule it anyway. But I think it's neat. The extra attack only once per turn is kind of a nice little limit to it, so people aren't going crazy over and over again. Overall, I think it's gonna be fun. I think it's a good one. Been waiting for a reason to have cleave for a while. It's gonna make the big fighty guys in my group pretty happy because I'm probably going to implement these weapon masteries.
Yeah, I know what you mean about the negative. Like, or you still apply it if it's a negative modifier. That verbiage I think is new. I've never seen that before because if you look at like offhand attack in 2014 rules, it just says that you don't get to add the modifier. Doesn't say anything about negative. So that's a slight nerf. And
Yes.
they've kind of made sure this doesn't get OP by limiting it to one attack and making sure you don't get that modifier on the cleave attack.
Yeah.
Okay, we can revisit these at the end, but we'll just rattle through them for now. So the next one is flex. So the prerequisite for this is that the weapon needs to have the versatile property, and it reads that when you hit when you hit with the melee attack using this weapon, you deal its versatile damage, even if you're wielding it with one hand. So basically, what that means is you can have a long sword and a shield, and if you have the versatile mastery, you're still going to be doing that D10 with the long sword, as opposed to a D8, which you would be doing in 5th edition. So we'll give this one to Matt.
Flex.
You flexing on flex?
I think that's interesting. I'm wondering. So I'm reading this. When you hit with a melee attack using this weapon, you deal its versatile damage, even if you're wielding it one hand. Now I'm wondering what. Now, like cleave, you can see how the real life property might actually like apply. A weapon like a great axe, you can see that moving through one target into another, right?
Yeah.
Flex, I'm a little questionable, like where they come. Like, it's called flex. How they're like applying that. Yeah, I can see how your mastery with like a weapon like a longsword, something that you can use two-handed. I mean, I like the idea. Mechanically, I like the idea that, you're somebody who's so used to using a weapon that has like versatility like that. You actually can take advantage of the fact that, you can do more damage with it with two-handed. But I'm not sure how they're actually explaining this realistically. Like, what are you doing differently that allows you to interact with this weapon as though you were using two hands instead of one? And then you call it flex. Do you know what I mean?
I don't know about the word flex, but I think it's kind of like you've battled with a sword and a shield for so long that the sword's not as heavy as it used to be. It just feels more right in the hand, so you can
I
strike
could see
through.
that maybe. I think my only problem with it would be the terminology flex. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
But maybe they could name it something a little bit different. But I do like the idea of somebody being able to take advantage of, like, maybe it is a weapon that it would have the ability to be used one or two-handed, like a long sword. It has a bit of a heavier property to it, and you're able to actually better take advantage of that in your strikes, manipulating the weapon in that regard. So yeah, I agree. I think that, you're so inured and used to fighting with a weapon like that, you can take advantage of that stuff. So I think it works. I like that ability. It also puts a step up to like just your standard fighters, having your standard sword and board fighter still doing a little bit extra damage output because of their training. So
yeah.
I like that.
All right. Next one is graze. So the prerequisite for this is a melee weapon, not a ranged, and it also needs to have the heavy property. And graze reads: if your attack roll with this weapon misses a creature, you can deal damage to that creature equal to the ability modifier used to make the attack roll. This damage is the same type dealt by the weapon, and the damage can't be increased in any way other than increasing the ability modifier. So I'll give this one to Jordan because I really want to give the next one to Jack. So Jordan, you take this one away.
I really enjoy graze. Mechanically, it brings like your martial classes more comparable with your spellcasters, in that spellcasters, if you're using a big enough spell, normally it's like they're going to take half damage if they pass the save or whatever. So it makes it feel like, yeah, you whiffed the attack, but you still get something in there. So it feels good from like a player point of view. I'm guessing it will up average damage of players fairly well. But in terms of like how it feels narratively, being able to say, okay, you just scraped by, but you still glanced off the armor sort of thing, and it still knocked them back a bit. Adding that sort of reward to that narrative description feels really good.
Yeah. All right. We'll push on because we've got a lot to get through. But yeah, Nick, this is what I mentioned earlier, how in relation to the light property. So I'll dive into the meat of it, and then we'll pass it to Jack. So the prerequisite is the weapon needs to have the light property, and it reads that when you make the extra attack of the light property, you can make it as part of the attack action instead of the bonus action, and you can still make this extra attack only once per turn. Now I know you can get some numbers involved here, Jack, which is why I left this one for you, because I know you like those. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think this is still a kind of like a good compromise, as opposed to how the light property was detailed in the previous Unearthed Arcana, or did you like it how it was previous?
So, D&D, well, 5th editions has certainly had some problems with two weapon fighting, where it wasn't, or dual wielding, where it wasn't always that great. You'd make your attack, then you need a bonus action to be able to make your offhand, and oftentimes you would have better things to do with the bonus action, and you'd be doing more damage if you could just use a big two-handed weapon. So then they changed it. They decided that you don't need a bonus action to make the offhand attack, and then that had the effect of swinging things the other way, where a lot of optimization content started leaning in towards two weapon fighting as being the best option. Notably for classes like the rogue, who could previously only make one attack. So now what they've done is they've reined it back in by making it still a bonus action unless you use this mastery, and then it's not a bonus action. And I think this weapon mastery is just a patch for the fact that Wizards of the Coast have really struggled to design a good form of two weapon fighting. And I think that the problem with two weapon fighting is it synergizes very well with abilities that increase the amount of damage you make per attack. So this used to be your Hex and your Hunter's Mark, and I believe it still is your Barbarian's Rage, where because they add damage to every attack, they synergize very well with weapon builds that allow you to make multiple attacks. So you either have to balance two weapon fighting with the other weapon styles by ignoring these abilities, in which case you're better off two weapon fighting, or you have to deliberately make it worse than the others under the assumption that you'll be applying these abilities. And there's not really been there's not really been a good way for Wizards of the Coast to square this circle. They have this problem where getting to do another attack is very good if you compare it with abilities. And I think this is just a sort of patch that they hope will fix the problem. And I don't think it will. I think it will just be like, fine. They've got a problem and they've proposed the solution. And I don't think it really fixes the problem they have, that they just need to think about how they want two weapon fighting to work within the game.
Mm-hmm. So just to summarize what you just said there, you think it's a good feature, but you think it's still a little bit broken? in terms of the overall?
So it's more of there is a problem with two weapon fighting, and I don't really think this weapon mastery sufficiently addresses it, but it might work for like 90% of games, and that's probably enough, you know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't want to linger on that too much because I know we could probably talk about it for a while. Let's do push. So prerequisite for this is you need a weapon with the heavy two-handed or versatile property. And it reads that if you hit a creature with this weapon, you can push the creature up to 10 feet away from you if it is no more than one size larger than you. We'll just keep going around in the circle. So you're on this one, Bex.
All right. So push. I definitely understand like heavy and two-handed. I mean, when I think about versatile weapons, like I could kind of see why like those ones can push, like especially if like you're using some of them like two-handed, but like sort of, at least for me. I think it's kind of cool. I mean, a lot of different classes or things can push. Like I know warlocks have an invocation that can push and pull 10 feet. So I mean, putting it into a fighting class kind of just seems obvious. Or like a class that uses like weapons in that way. And especially since it's like no more than one size larger than you, which just makes sense.
Mhm.
But you know, it's okay. It's something that should exist because it already exists in other capacities, so it was only a matter of time. I'm just a little iffy about like the versatile thing. Like I kind of see it like, you know, I guess if you're with a quarterstaff, if you're pushing with a quarterstaff, because that's versatile in this now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I can kind of see it, but also like to me, my brain just makes more sense of big weapon, big push.
Yeah, I think flavor-wise that might not make sense. I don't. Yeah, you probably need like an overarching like read on the whole thing to because maybe versatile weapons were lacking and they just had to put it in that and with that weapon mastery just to balance it a bit more. But yeah, just from a quick eye test, yeah, that doesn't make sense. But yeah, I think the feature is good as a whole because you can like kind of obviously the situations where you could push someone off a cliff, you could push them into something dangerous, you could set up like a spike growth spell or like a cloud of daggers spell, push them into there. You can get really creative with it. So yeah, it just gives fighters and other kind of like melee characters without spells just something else extra to do.
It's gonna be a lot of fun, crazy battlefield setups.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
You can have two
So next up
warriors
is
playing tennis.
It's gonna be
Yep.
it's gonna be a great time.
So next up is sap, which the prerequisite for this is that the weapon has no other properties. And it reads that if you hit a creature with this weapon, that creature has disadvantage on its next attack roll before the start of your next turn. So this would be you taking this one, Matt.
Sap, huh?
Mm.
Okay. Now I can see how this works. So between the push, sap, and slow, I just wanted to and topple. I am somebody who enjoys the thematic, I guess, image of battlefield management. It's more realistic to me to see things like, people getting pushed around, sapping, slowing, toppling, like things like that. It's as it is, it's like your, tokens are in like a 5-foot square, your miniatures are 5-foot square, 5-foot square. You're sort of narrating things. And I can't tell you how many times I've had people be like, oh, can I do this? Like push. Can I push them? Or, things like that. And by the current rules, they really don't accommodate. So I love battlefield management like that. Being able to push somebody into an existing spell effect that one of your other players has already created, like a wall of fire, stuff like that is very cool because then it gives more utility, battlefield utility to martial classes. Very cool. And in the case of sap, I can see you're literally like ringing somebody's bell. You tap them on the noggin, they take that the wind gets knocked out of them by a strike or something like that. So thematically, it makes sense. You're literally like sapping somebody's ability to fight, even if it's like, it takes them around to catch their breath. But, when it comes to tactic wise, I think that's awesome. You have a bad guy, a creature, a monster, an enemy going after one of the more physically vulnerable characters in your group. And you may not be able to drop this thing or really take care of it, but if you have the ability to sap it, you can at least take that effect and be like, kick it between the kick it in the giggle bits and get it, rethinking its life choices for at least a round to help save your friend. So I think it's actually a very good thing, because you're still doing the damage, but you're also, using that effect. So I think these are, in general, the majority of these are pretty good.
Yeah, and there's no limiter on that as well. So, later stages when you've got, 2, 3, 4 attacks, you can just pepper, 4 enemies and apply that that property to everyone.
Think about a monk and flurry of blows.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah.
If they can't stun, they can probably at least sap.
Yeah.
So
the next one is slow. There's no prerequisites for this one. And it reads that if you hit a creature with this weapon and deal damage to the creature, you can reduce its speed by 10 feet until the start of your next turn. If you hit the creature more than once with this property, the speed reduction doesn't exceed 10 feet. So there is a limiter on this one. But yeah, Jordan, pass the baton to you.
I mean, it's great. It's fun. It lets you have mechanical input from, all right, I'm going to hamstring the guy. It feels good. Yeah, there's not much to say on this one. It's a good weapon mastery. What weapon has it as a default? Let's see if it fits. A whip. Yeah.
Right.
You're able to grab hold of them and pull them back. Longbow, musket has that as default as well. Yeah, you go for a leg shot.
Mm-hmm.
Can see why they chose those, and it feels right.
Yep. All right, moving on. We have topple. So this one does have some prerequisites. You need to have the heavy, reach, or versatile property. And it reads that if you hit a creature with this weapon, you can force the creature to make a con save with a DC of equal to 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus the ability modifier used to make the attack roll. And on a failed save, the creature has the prone condition. Jack, take it away.
Yeah, so I think it's a nice, useful feature to have. I imagine they've picked those weapon types because typically you'll be using strength for those weapons. So if you think about the versatile weapons, you tend to be using your strength score, unless you're a monk or shillelagh or anything of that kind. So I think that's why they've opted for those restrictions, and I imagine it's why they've opted for those restrictions on the similar ones as well. I think the effect is good, because it's advantage on further attack rolls. They technically have disadvantage on their attack rolls, or they will likely just stand up next turn. I think the saving throw is probably correct. You can get more reliable utility out of topple than say slow or push. So that's why I think they've opted for a save. So altogether, I think that's a good feature. I'll just have a look at what they've given as the default. I think they picked some of the big. So they've given it by default to the lance, which makes sense. That was often used to knock people over. They've given it to the trident, which I don't really associate with knocking people over, but that's what they've done. Oh, and of course the maul. Yes, definitely. Definitely something that should get a topple property. I imagine someone gets hit with one of those, they are not getting up, or certainly not staying up. So yeah, all in all, a good mastery.
Yeah, and as a melee character, getting someone prone is obviously beneficial because you're going to get that advantage on your subsequent attack rolls. It's going to depend on, when you get them to topple and how many attacks you got left. But someone else might be able to take advantage of that prone condition as well. So that's a pretty
It's
nice
like having
one.
a free shove attack.
Yeah, yeah. Last one we have Vex, not Vax, if you know that reference. Well done. The prerequisite for this one is ammunition, finesse, or light property. And it reads that if you hit a creature with this weapon and deal damage to the creature, you have advantage on your next attack roll against that creature before the end of your next turn. So, Bex, this makes sense for you to take it because it's Bex with Vex. Take it away.
First, I am trying to rack my brain for where else they would use the verbiage if you hit a creature and deal damage to it. Because I guess maybe if you're hitting a werewolf and it has immunity to piercing, slashing, bludgeoning, Vex just becomes completely useless. So I was just thinking about that verbiage, and two, I mean, I guess like maybe I'm just struggling to see like any fun flavor for it. Like I guess hand axes get it. Darts and short bows, short swords, and like rapiers. I mean, I guess it's a cool little ability, like having advantage on your next attack against that creature before the end of your next turn. So like free advantage is always fun. I'm sure everyone likes that. I just, yeah, it's cool. Free advantage. Lots of things give you free advantage. I think players a lot like that. I'm sure I would love seeing that over and over and over again for my ranged players. Just, oh yeah, no, yeah, go ahead and have your crossbow have advantage every time.
Yeah, I know you mean with the lack of flavor there. But yeah, like just to round out like this weapon mastery section, because that's where we're gonna end it there. So the thing I'm thinking of is obviously there's a lot of crossover here with like battle master maneuvers. So yeah, do we think it's going to step on the toes of the battle master too much? What are they going to need to change to the battle master to accommodate for these? And just overall, do we think that they're good for the game, and yeah, do they help the martial classes going forward? And we'll just do a free table on this. So whoever wants to speak.
I definitely feel like it kind of does step on the toes of like Battlemaster. Like Battlemaster is like I guess it's one of my personal favorite fighters. And all the maneuvers are like really cool. It makes it really unique. That kind of like a master of the art of combat. And like, it's nice that other classes kind of get the ability to do fun things with their weapons. It definitely helps diversify it there. And I'm not saying it makes Battlemaster obsolete, because it certainly doesn't. Because each weapon only gets one mastery, I believe. So, it definitely makes it so that more people can diversify. And I guess if you play a Battlemaster, you can just go crazy. But it definitely feels like it's just making Battlemaster something that more people can access without actually taking the subclass, which is fine. I mean, I'm always down for more ways to diversify your characters, especially when it comes to builds.
Yeah.
Sammy, what page are we on for this?
So not like we're not really talking about a specific page, but we've got to Vex, which is the end of page 4.
Yeah, all right. So I'll just leave it on Vex then.
Yeah. Anyone else have anything to add?
I don't think it steps too much on the Battlemaster's toes, because because the Battlemaster has a lot of maneuvers that these don't easily replicate. Like none of these, are really, are really similar to something like Menacing Strike, which can frighten an enemy, or Commander Strike, which can delegate an attack,
True.
or the ones that they get to use on ability checks that Tasha's brought in.
Yeah,
But
I think
I'm actually surprised that they're not more like Battlemaster maneuvers,
Hmm.
considering that Wizards of the Coast seems desperate for people to take Battlemaster maneuvers. There's a feat where you can take them. Tasha's Cauldron adds a fighting style where you can take them.
Yep.
They I think someone at some point realised that having a massive in-depth system for a single subclass is not like an efficient use of writing.
yeah, someone must have seen it somewhere and go like, you know what, we're changing now.
That's a
Yeah.
good point.
They heard a bunch of people complaining about playing martial classes and was like, but we've got this feature, use this feature.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think if you do look at balancing in 2014 5e, spellcasting does outweigh, your martial classes. The spellcasters are just, I think it's evidently, more overpowered. Matt, did you want to say something before?
Yeah, I mean, the spellcasters have always been, when it comes to doling out damage, have always been they're glass cannons. That's what they are. When it comes to the balancing regarding that, if a martial class lands enough blows, like using tactics, I think it'll, even in just the 2014 standard rules, they would topple, they would take down a spellcaster, obviously, because there's that disparity in hit points and whatnot. These now really even that score. It means that a spellcaster is going to have to use far more utility spells and mobility to avoid getting into hand-to-hand combat with somebody, because being able to like knock them on their ass or stun them for a round in some way, or slow them, or basically keep them in place, that puts that back on the more of the martial side of things. And let's not forget, the martial class is just way outdo a little finger wiggler's hit points capacity. So there's that. Martial class can take more, and you spellcasters do more. I think it's proportional, but I would leave it up to like Jack, the math man, to kind of like figure that out technically. But I think a lot of this stuff, in the Battle Master, I think the Battle Master is actually going to become even cooler with the weapon masteries. I think it's going to add, first and foremost, flavor, which was dramatically needed for martial classes, because you can only describe what you're doing so much and then have it still come down to a single attack roll before it just gets kind of boring, so I like having these options.
Yeah, I think what I would say is one of the success points with 5e was its simplicity. So I'm not surprised to see something like these weapon masteries come in now, where people are more used to the game, and it's just kind of adding another layer. Because I think if they came out in 2014, it would have just been maybe a bit more complex and confusing for newer players. So that's probably why they didn't add it. Because like I said at the start of this, you'll see similar things like weapon masteries in previous editions of D&D. But yeah, we'll leave it there. And we're going to move on to the monk. So basically, just to start this off, if you've never seen any of the Unearthed Arcana stuff before, what they're doing now is they're kind of grouping classes into 4 distinct groups. So you've got experts, which are your bard, your ranger, and your rogue. You have your mages, which are your sorcerer, your warlock, and your wizard. You have your priests, which are your cleric, your druid, and your paladin. And you have your warriors, which are your barbarian, your fighter, and the monk. All these will be coming out in the new PHB. There's also the artificer, which is classed as an expert, but that'll be coming in later publications. So like I said, we're going to start with the monk. This is the first time the monk has been touched on in these Unearthed Arcana documents. So yeah, like I just said, the monk is a warrior. Its primary abilities are dexterity and wisdom, and in terms of its hit dice proficiencies and armor compared to the 2014 version, hit dice is the same. It's a D8. Proficiencies are the same, except for the short sword, which it no longer has access to, and the armor is the same, which it doesn't have any armor training. For starting equipment, you can basically take the default, which is artisan's tools, a dagger, 5 actually, explorer's pack, musical instrument, a spear, and 9 gold pieces, or you can forego all of that and start with 65 gold pieces. So that's kind of like some of the starting stuff, and then I'm going to run through a change log of changes between this version and the 2014, and then we'll dive into some specifics and hand it over to the DMs again. So the first thing that's changed is martial arts. So the monk starts with a D6 rather than a D4 for its martial arts die, and that die applies only to unarmed strikes, not weapons. Weapons are now enhanced by weapon mastery, so that's the justification there. To keep up with other classes, the monk's unarmed strikes needed this damage boost, which goes up to a D12 rather than a D10. So the floor's higher and the ceiling's higher. The next one is weapon mastery, which we just discussed. That's why we did. It just says that is a new first level feature, and it's giving you new ways to use weapons. Next up is martial discipline. This was formerly known as Ki, which gives you an improved version of Step of the Wind, which now lets you take both the disengage and the dash action. You've got deflect missiles. This has been redesigned, making it easier to use in more situations and to deal more damage on average. You have heightened metabolism. This is a new 7th level feature, making it easier for monks to regain discipline points. Again, these were previously called key points, and gain other benefits of a short rest. You got stunning strike. This can now only be used once per turn, and the stun lasts until the start of your next turn. Well, that's something we'll definitely be getting into. Empowered strikes. This was formerly called key empowered strikes, which now lets you deal force damage. Acrobatic movement is the new name of unarmed movement. Self-restoration. This replaces stillness of mind, purity of body, and timeless body, and it allows you to remove the conditions as a bonus action, not an action. Deflect energy is a new 13th level feature, allowing you to use deflect missiles to deflect any type of ranged attack, including spell attacks. It replaces Tongue of the Sun and Moon, one of the lowest rated monk features. What lowest rated monk features means is when they've had feedback, Wizards of the Coast, on the 2014 classes and what have you, that feature has came back with the most negative criticism, basically. There's also Discipled Survivor, which was formerly called Diamond Soul. Superior Defense, formerly Empty Body, has been redesigned to not rely on spells. Perfect Discipline, which was formerly Perfect Self, has moved from 20th to 15th level. And Defy Death is the new 20th level feature. And just to touch on that, in previous UAs, they kind of redesigned how all the features would come at certain levels, and they had basically what's called epic boons at 20th level. They've been stripped from the classes, but they're still existing. They're just implementing them in different ways. Okay, so I've talked a lot. I apologize, but needed to get those out of the way. So that was the change log. We're going to home in first on deflect missiles. So to give another summary on this before I pass it over. So deflect missiles used to be specific to ranged weapon attacks. Now it's just ranged attacks. However, those attacks need to be bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage. The damage reduction is the same. There's no size caveat, and you don't need a free hand to activate this ability. Previously, when you did return the attack, it had a range of 20, at a short range of 20 and a long range of 60. Now it's just 60 period. But they have added a caveat of total cover. Instead of being an attack roll, it's now a dexterity save for the target. the damage went from being basically 1 roll of your martial arts die to 2 rolls. And like I said in the changelog, there's a new feature called Deflect Energy. This comes online at level 13, which enhances Deflect Missiles. And basically it makes it so that Deflect Missiles now works on any ranged attack type. There's a lot to digest there. And we ended with Jack last time, so we'll start with Jack. Talk to me about Deflect Missiles and inherently Deflect Energy.
Okay. So so having a look at so I'm going to start with Deflect Energy, because I actually thought that was the more interesting change, because especially as you get to higher levels, you will start having issues with enemies that use unconventional projectiles, shall we say. One example would be the Barbed Devil, which can use its Hurl Flame ability. And the monks deflect missiles can't do anything for that because it's fire damage, and you can have this problem repeated with other enemies as well. In fact, the Barbed Devil isn't even that isn't even that challenging of a creature. So I think it's good that they they've acknowledged this and have put in a feature to deal with that. I'm not sure it necessarily had to be as high as 13th level. It feels that they could have maybe put that a bit lower, if there were space for it. But it's certainly nice to have. And then as for Deflect Missiles itself, I'm not sure I like the change to the damage, because I think it was because correct me, I believe with the original monk it was using the same damage as the original attack. It was the same. Was it the same damage amount as the original attack?
No, you would basically roll your martial arts dice. So the damage type would be the same. So if it's like an arrow, it's still gonna do piercing damage. But if it's like shot from a longbow, which is a D10, it's not. You don't do a D10 back. It would just be whatever your martial arts dice was at that level.
Oh, that's it. Yeah. So okay. Yeah. So it is. Okay. So it is the second. Okay. So right. I've just got the rules up now. It was yeah. So it was 1 roll of the martial arts die originally, and now it's 2.
Yep.
Okay. So I've been too busy looking at the monk weapon changes. Okay, yeah. So in that case, right now, in that case, it is a straight damage. In that case, it will be a straight damage increase and a straight range increase, because it's saying that previously it had it had a normal range of 20 feet and a long range of 60 feet, and this is just a straight range increase to 60 feet. So certainly deflect missiles in that case does seem to be improved. It doesn't say anything about riders that might have applied to the original missile, which the original one didn't do either. But it would be nice if they could get that clarified, because you remember from our campaign that how the monk caught a crossbow bolt that could paralyze, and then threw it back at the shooter and paralyze them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm not entirely sure if that was rules legal in 5th edition, but it certainly doesn't. It's certainly unclear if it's legal in 1 D&D either, and I would like to get something like that.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Clarified, especially if they are including it to deflect energy attacks, which also tend to have riders, such as setting things aflame. I believe Hurl Flame can do.
Mm-hmm.
So it does look to be an improvement, and I do like deflect energy. I still don't think it necessarily has to be 13th level.
No, I agree with you on that. I think in 2014 rules, deflect missiles is one of them cool features, but it was very niche, and it does look like they've brought it online more here. And I kind of love the flavoring of the deflect energy because it just reminds me of those like classic like Avatar: The Last Airbender fights where they would just like manipulate the fire and then like throw it back. Or if you've seen the newest season of The Witcher, Yennefer kind of does something similar there as well. Which is a bit more weird because she's just kind of like a sorceress rather than a monk, but same thing going on there.
We can all have our Iroh moment and redirect lightning. It's
It's gonna
fantastic.
be so flavorful for monks, honestly.
Uh-huh. Anyone else want to add? Obviously, we haven't done this so far, but it's quite a big one. So, does anyone else want to add anything to that before we move on to a stunning strike?
I guess the only thing I've been thinking about and been mulling over is the creature makes a dex save instead of it being an attack roll. That's a fun little change. I mean, I guess I can see it, but also like since it's not like you're deflecting it and it's bouncing back rather than you're catching and making an attack. So I guess I see it there. I just, it's a fun little change in how it's ruled. I'm assuming like it's like cantrip level, so if they pass the dex save, it just misses. So
Yes, yeah, no, that's what will happen. Yeah,
I think thematically it's very cool where they added the as you can tell, I'm more about the dramatics and thematics of the game. But I can't tell you how many wuxia films that I've watched where some kind of martial artist either throwing some kind of energy bolt or something like that, and then another martial artist either deflects it or catches it, throws it back, and stuff like that. That happens in these high fantasy Chinese martial arts films all over the place all the time. So I think thematically that's awesome. Yeah, it's interesting that they added a dexterity saving throw to that as on the return. If you're actually taking advantage of the return to sender option here. But I saw Big Lundy, you mentioned the idea of deflecting like a dragon's breath. Now, while that would be cool, you still have to reduce the damage. Like you're still technically going to be you're getting hit, you have to reduce the damage before the deflect actually takes into account. But yeah, high level monk doing that to like maybe a lower challenge rating dragon, that would be kind of interesting to actually like turn that breath weapon either back to its own face or off to another target.
The monk can't do it with a dragon's breath because it specifies ranged attack, and dragon's breath is almost always a saving throw.
Right, I know, but it's rare. There are rare ones that it is actually like an attack. So like if that happened, sure, like it would be cool to see. But yeah, you're right. It has to be an actual attack, and you still have to reduce it to 0 to take advantage of that. So
the one thing the text doesn't specify is what the DC of that dexterity saving throw is and what it's based on.
I'm going to assume it's your the same thing as your stunning strike. It would be your
wisdom.
Yeah,
right?
your wisdom
DC
plus
A plus proficiency plus.
That's what I'm guessing.
Probably, yeah.
They should specify that though. That needs to
They
be
should.
specified.
Yeah, it's an extension of the martial discipline feature. So I think they've captured it through that.
I got it.
Yeah, since it uses the martial discipline dice, the martial arts die, it's subject to the martial discipline feature rules.
That makes
so
sense.
it is 8 plus proficiency plus
wisdom. Yeah. Okay. All right. So next we're going on to the quintessential monk ability. No, I think this has been nerfed. But yeah, we're talking about stunning strike. So they've made it now so you can only stunning strike once per turn. But you can now do it with a weapon attack and a unarmed strike. However, if you are successful in your stunning, the stun ends at the start of your next turn rather than at the end of the next turn. Because what you basically could do is you could keep the you could keep the stun in a never-ending cycle there, which you still kind of can,
Stun
but it's not
locking.
as yeah, it's not as broken as it was. So who did I give Jack deflect missiles? So yeah, Jordan, you can take the reins on this.
All right, you know me. I fucking love to harp on about class identity.
You do.
And one of the strongest tools in the monk's toolkit is Stunning Strike for letting you live out that monk fantasy of I'm such a great martial artist you can't get a hit in. That said, the changes here make me kind of happy as a dungeon master. It feels good, honestly, as a dungeon master, not as a player though. It's in general just a little weaker, but not massively so. It moves it more towards using Stunning Strike to support your party rather than for the monk to deal massive damage. Oh yeah, Big Lundy pulls up a good thing. Being able to disabling 3/4 enemies. Yeah. That is something that you can't do with this anymore.
Actually did that to my Monday night group not too long ago, where I was repeatedly stunning 2 people in their party. They were upset.
Maybe add something where you can only attempt to Stunning Strike one creature. No, that undermines it.
Yeah. I'm gonna go Jack for a little second here and talk some numbers on this, because I actually feel quite strongly about this. So so Stunning Strike forces the creature to make a Constitution saving throw, and if you don't know, Constitution saving throws on average are the highest average saving throws for monsters. I think someone's done a kind of little table here, and on average across all challenge ratings, a monster has a 6.2 bonus to the Constitution saving throw, and at all challenge ratings, Constitution saving throws are the highest. So combine that with the fact that it goes off your Wisdom modifier for your DC, and monks in general are normally what's called MAD, multiple ability score dependent, where they want to have some dex, they want to have some con, they need some whiz. So you're also going to have a low DC combined with the fact that the monsters are going to have a high chance to pass them, which normally results in Stunning Strike not working. So the fact that you can only do it once per turn and you've still got to deal with both of those things that I've just mentioned, I think is a very big nerf. And I'm sure Jack will have something to say, considering I just dived into his area of expertise there with the numbers. But yeah, what do you think, Jack?
So I mean, my thoughts on Stunning Strike is it was always like a crutch for the monk. It was like the one thing that they could do really well in order to make up for the fact that they had a terrible chassis and that they were constantly having to rest for key. This was like the one thing that could make them very capable. I think one of the niches it was good at was for blazing through a boss's legendary resistances, because you always want to resist stun if that fails. But I feel that if they're going to make a proper monk, then I think nerfing Stunning Strike to this is actually appropriate, so long as they give it other boosted features. We've skipped the early features, but none of those I think do much more for the monk. I think the monk still has a lot of the same problems that the 5e monk has, certainly by 5th level where this feature comes online. And so it's one of these. They've taken away the crutch, but they've forgotten to fix the legs.
Good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. They've realised that the crutch is indicative of a problem, and they've not fixed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I'm
go on, John.
I'm just double checking. Did they update the stunned condition as well?
Oh, that's a
I
good one.
think they changed some conditions, but I can't remember if stunned was one of them.
It's not in 5. Is it?
Not in this one. Doesn't look like stunned has been changed.
Mm,
I can't see it in this playtest, but they might have changed it in playtest previously.
Hmm.
So it's got to be in either 5 or 6. Seems they've kind of consolidated it anyway.
No, I just done Control F on both of those documents, and it's not in there.
They've not
Yeah.
underlined stun either in this playtest, which indicates that
Which
it's not
implies
going to
it's
be
not
at the
changed.
bottom. Let's see. I think they had it in the expert playtest. What is it?
I just checked him there. Not there.
so they didn't change stunned at all.
No, it doesn't look like it. So
Yeah.
stunned is one of the most powerful fucking conditions you can
It's
apply.
it's so
Mhm.
smelly when you get hit with it.
I actually had a monk in one of my games stun lock a dragon
Yeah,
because I
they
rolled
yeah.
that badly on my Constitution saves. 3
As a
turns in
dragon?
row as a dragon.
Yuck.
High level, they were much higher level, so the resist, the difficulties to
DC.
resist were higher.
Yeah.
But
sometimes it just goes like that, you know.
just having a dragon stun locked for 3 turns is pretty
You just gotta
daunting.
sit there and look at your dice and just, why am I here?
Yeah.
And think, sometimes I could fudge this.
I
I'm not
won't,
going
but
to,
I
but
really
you could.
could. Man.
Yeah. I think one of the ways around what I was talking about with the whole like mad stuff and the Constitution saving throw was obviously they released the Astral Self Monk, which you can then attack with your Wisdom modifier rather than your Dex. So that makes it more single ability score dependent. And it also makes sure that you can keep bumping that Wisdom modifier so the DC isn't as high. There's also ways around it like picking up Shillelagh to do Wisdom, to do attacks with Wisdom instead, but I think that brings its own problems. But yeah, like I think that was one of the major problems with the monk, and also like the key I think is another problem. Or the next one's kind of going to check that a little bit. But yeah, let's do that. Let's segue into heightened metabolism, which, to keep a long story short, is basically a once per day 1 minute short rest for the monk. They get all the effects that they would normally get on a short rest, which means getting their key back, or discipline points back now, as it's called. And Matthew, we'll give you this one.
Well, I mean, I can see this as, again, thematically, it is appropriate. You see this kind of stuff where, I can't tell you how many Jackie Chan movies where he gets beat to shit for like the first half of a fight. Then all of a sudden something changes, and a minute later he's back in it, fighting harder than he ever, did. So to me, that's what this feels like. Like all of a sudden, yeah, oh, you thought I was done. Sorry, not today. So I think that, thematically it fits, but it also puts monks, gives them I like to think of them as a martial class. They were, and I think to a large degree still are, more of a utility fighter. They really kind of have to play chess on the board when they're fighting. I think this goes a long way for them to, in that sort of supplemental role that they play, Like, I'm not your tank, but I'm up there with the tank. It means that you can hold that role longer before everyone else has to refresh themselves. So I think this is really good for resource management for monks.
Yeah. The only issue I see is obviously because it's a minute, it's just going to be impossible to use in combat. So it's going to be good in like a waved scenario where maybe you do have a minute or 5 minutes before the next wave comes in.
Mhm.
You know,
My
obviously it's
dungeons.
miles. Yeah, obviously it's miles better than just taking a short rest. Yeah, because if you do take that hour, you do risk something else coming along. Whereas if it's only a minute, there's less risk. But yeah, we'll move on to keep it going. We got empowered strikes next. So this means that unarmed strikes are no longer magical at 6th level like they were in 2014. But instead, at 6th level, they can now, if you want to, do force damage instead of. It doesn't actually say bludgeoning damage here. It just says your normal damage, quote unquote. So yeah, a little nerf, little buff. What do we think, Bex?
Wait, what
I
page
mean,
is that on?
Powered
Oh,
strike.
28.
Powered Strikes 6. There it is. Yep,
Yeah,
go
you got
ahead.
it.
I mean, I definitely when I played a monk, like I loved doing the punching thing and all that stuff, and I got to 6th level and I got to creatures that, needed magical attacks for it to do well, and I'm like, well, this blows. So, I mean, changing it to that, it just does straight up force. I feel like force is one of the least resisted in the game. I used to have the numbers for what was the most resisted, least resisted, but like
I think so.
Yep.
can't pull. Yeah, I think it's one of the least resisted. So that's a pretty good one. So that's kind of nice for it's like, okay, well, I'm punching things normally isn't working, so let's just punch them slightly magically. Like I guess the old wording was your unarmed strikes count as like magic for the purpose of overcoming resistance and stuff, like
Yeah.
resistance and immunity. So just allowing it to change to force. I mean, I'm assuming if creature's still like immune to force and all that stuff, like it doesn't really change anything. But I mean, I think it's okay. I think it's a good enough swap out. Like it's not making it magical, but your damage could technically be of a type that isn't resisted.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's okay.
It's been suspected that they might be removing the damage resistance to non-magical slashing, bludgeoning, and piercing. So that might be why they've changed the
Oh.
damage type to force rather than included
That's some good
the resistance bypassing.
I see.
We still do need to see what the new version of a monster manual is going to look like before we can really.
Yeah. Because, like, I mean, I guess, like, unless you see what monsters you're gonna have and, like, what's gonna be resisted and not, knowing force damage, at least right now, force damage is cool, but, like, maybe it turns out, like, everything of, like, an outer planar subtype or something like that is immune to force. It's like, well, okay, then what's the point?
I don't think
Yeah.
is there anything that has immunity to force? I don't think there is.
Yeah, there's some dragons.
Is there?
There's like the gem dragon. There's like one of the gem dragons. I forget which one.
That
I
makes
think
sense.
It's force immunity.
Let me pull out this.
That's kind of
Oh, I
insane.
love Fizbins. Yeah, it's pretty nice. It's not gonna get resisted. Like, imagine if they said, oh, you could change it to like fire, lightning, cold, or something like that. It's like, okay, well then I'm just gonna have to cycle through the rainbow, and I might as well just play 4 elements. But
Right, exactly. But I mean, the fact that yeah, because it's actually force damage and not bludgeoning, it would bypass any
Yeah.
resistances. I can see that that being the case. But force, that's good. I love that.
I think only like a 9-ish, or like a really like not even double digits number of creatures I think have resistance to force damage.
And the fact that you can punch a ghost, I just like that idea.
Yeah, I think it's definitely good. You should be listen, if you're like this magical, like mystic person, you should be able to punch a ghost. That should be something in your resume.
All right. Let's push on to self-restoration. So, from what I know, I think disease as a condition has been removed from the game and been reworked into the poison condition, which, as a result, means that the monk is no longer immune to poison like it previously was. Once it got to that certain feature level. And you now have to wait 3 more levels to access what I would call a worse version of what Stillness of Mind did. But they did make it a bonus action to end that rather than an action. So there's a slight buff there. But yeah, I believe. Wait, we done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So back to Jack, right, for this?
I think so.
Yeah. Take it away, Jack.
Okay, so I'm not sure self-restoration is worse than stillness of mind. I know it's at a higher level, but stillness of mind appears to be an action to end an effect that's causing you to be charmed or frightened, and this is a bonus action to remove charmed, frightened, or poisoned. So I don't think it's worse. It's just at a higher level than stillness of mind. But it's not. It's obviously not as good as purity of body, which appeared to give you immunity to poison damage as
Yes.
well. I always thought that was a bit of a strange wording, that it says immunity to poison rather than like specifying damage and the poison condition. Though I remember the dwarf just said poison as well, I think. So it looks like they've clarified that what they want is immunity. So it says the ability to remove the poisoned condition, but it doesn't give you immunity to it, or to poison damage. So I think it's not a nerfed stillness of mind, but it is a nerfed purity of body.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not too happy with with this feature. At least it's a bonus action to get rid of them.
Yeah.
But I'm not thrilled. I'm sure they could have capped the immunity to poison damage if they wanted to. I mean, is it so bad having immunity to a damage type at this level? I don't think so. But there we go.
Or even like resistance. Like
Mm.
it's just straight up you can end it, but that's like it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna see if they do it like later or something.
I don't
Well, it
think
comes
so.
back to the whole
No.
monster manual thing too, because there was also the
Yeah.
question of lycanthropy,
Yeah.
because that was a disease, and
now
it
disease
was it a
is
curse?
not a thing.
it was both.
Okay.
It was
I
both.
know Beulah's Owls had a condition that was a disease, and then that was like one of the few times it mattered.
Yeah.
I'm glad they're getting rid of the disease, because it was never really a mechanic they thought through, and it means that you can't really set much of an adventure around like a plague hitting. It's just like the paladin can cure everyone.
Well, it was the same
Yeah.
thing with like mummy rot.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Mm.
yeah, that was a disease as well.
That was also a disease. So like, paladins were immune to that. Monks were immune to that. So if they're going to get rid of like the disease as, as a label, then I'm curious to see how they handle things like mummy rot or anything that actually causes a disease, or rather used to cause a disease.
Yeah, I mean,
wonder
I
if they
guess
just make mummy rot a curse.
yeah, they could just do that, but like even then, like it's still one of those things that's gonna have to try and make it fit in so that not only it makes sense, but also like if you're doing a campaign about mummies, like and this is like some big mummy lord, like having it not just be something you can be like, cure, done, easy peasy,
Yeah.
remove curse, gone.
Yeah, they'd have to do something. If it was like a magically, induced disease, I would think then it would probably fall under the umbrella of curses. So, remove curse would take care of stuff like that.
Hopefully they will get some proper rules for disease. I always felt 5e just didn't really have a good rule set. And I mean, it was just a thing that the text said existed, and then it didn't come up all that often.
Yeah, there's definitely some things like starting with Pathfinder was rough, but like looking at all like the different ways how they define diseases and poisons and all that stuff, and it's a lot, but it's really like specific about how it goes, and I've always really liked that about it. So maybe if they're revamping how poisoned works, they'll revamp how curses and all that things, since they're just taking the word disease out entirely.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm thinking that they're gonna have to do. But again, that'll have to come out with like, you know, the monster manual, because that's where all of those entries tend to appear.
Or there be a new DM's guide?
Probably.
I imagine there'll
Yeah.
have to be.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
like
guess.
honestly, if they're changing a lot of this stuff.
They've touched on, yeah, they have confirmed there's a new Dungeon Master guide. There was one interview that Jeremy Crawford did, and he basically broke down what was wrong with the current DMG and what they wanted to change. So I'll
Neat.
try and find that link.
I
But
will say that I see a trend starting to emerge in 5th edition, which I will admit has taken longer than previous versions of Dungeons and Dragons, that I like to call the crunch creep, where they add new rules, options, and things like that, which kind of adds complexity to creating characters, managing encounters, etc., etc. I saw that in 3rd edition. It got worse in 3.5, and then really translated over to Pathfinder, which is effectively 3.75. So
And it was pretty bad in 4th as well. Even though 4th wasn't around very long.
right. So the crunch creep, I'm starting to see that now. We'll see what happens. That's all I'm going to say.
all right, next up we got Superior Defense. So basically they've removed the ability for you to effectively cast Astral Self on yourself. But in terms of the other features, it now costs 1 less discipline point to activate it, and you can now activate it as a bonus action. And if you don't know, basically what it does is it makes you resistant to all damage types, ironically, except for force. So, yeah, who? I've completely lost track.
I think it's Jordan.
Jordan, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. JC.
So it's great that the only thing that can really hurt an 18th level monk is another 18th level monk. Just having them do these 2 masters of their martial arts dueling it out. Again, it feels strong for the class identity sort of stuff. It does really make them feel like these dedicated martial artists that just have put their entire life and soul into being masters of their craft. Mechanically, it's okay. Losing astral projection, making it like less tied to spells is fine. It's honestly a better path for that sort of thing. I'm saying this, and then I immediately see on the next page below it, I know we're not talking about subclasses, but one of the subclass features where it's like, you can cast darkness. It's like, come on, you took a step in the right direction and you just went no. But yeah, I think it's a solid move away from Empty Body. Oh, which was its original incarnation, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels good.
All right, and last but not least, we have Defy Death. This is the new 20th level feature. What it basically is a death ward, but it costs you 4 discipline points. And what you effectively do is, if you be reduced to 0, you roll 4 of your martial arts dice, and that's the amount of hit points you have instead. The wording on it seems really good in terms of what they can like stop you from like dying to. We can get onto that when I pass it to a DM. If you can keep using it, but the more times that you use it, the cost to proc it goes up by 2 points every time. So first time is 4, second time is 6. But that point cost resets back to 4 on a short or a long rest, basically. So yeah, Matthew, you have the dance floor on this one.
Well, at this point, you're dealing with 20th level characters.
Mm.
So, ludicrous is an apt descriptor for any encounters or that you have to put together for 20th level characters. It's just ridiculous. But so it looks like basically if you don't spend anything, like if you spend no more than 2, if I'm reading that right, 2 of your discipline points, you could do 3. And
Yeah, I get
Yeah.
that as
yeah.
well.
I see what
you
you're
have
saying.
3 uses
I see
of
what
it
you're
if you
saying.
spend your
Yeah.
no more than 2 on anything else.
Yeah.
So realistically, in a 20th level encounter, you might get 1. Okay. It's good that it'll set your hit points to whatever your roll. What is it? 4 rolls of your
4
dice.
rolls of d12s. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's like
4d12. That's good.
26.
26. Yeah. on
Yeah,
average.
I mean that's a good. It gives you that buffer that maybe if the cleric is still standing might rectify a little bit better. And it's pretty good for an initial 4-point use. So I mean I do like it. But again, at 20th level, yeah, I could see this being clutch in certain situations where something could potentially drop multiple party members. Maybe you do drop, like, oh shit, it took out the cleric, the fighter, and is about to take me out. You use this to stay in the fight, and then maybe get some, on your next turn, get some, with the mobility of a monk, get some potions into somebody's face hole and keep the fight going. So I can see this in a utility sense as a deciding factor on whether it's a TPK or the fight continues to another round. So I do think that this is good. And in a 20th level encounter, there's probably a good chance something like that happening if the encounter is done right. Because let's face it, a group of 20th level characters is ridiculously powerful, and it's very easy for them to just, run roughshod over what you think is a 20th level encounter. It's up to your dungeon master to, over that time spent running the games for your increasingly, power gathering group, to realize what really challenges them. But I think it has the potential to be clutch if done right. So, yeah, I say yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested because it says if you drop to 0 hit points. Because technically on a power word kill, you drop to 0 hit points.
Yeah.
So does that? Yeah. Can you like defy a power word kill?
Yeah. Technically, yes. If you ask me, and it says as part of it, it's like if you drop to 0 hit points, and the spell says you drop to 0 hit points, well then you get to do both.
So we did power word kill. I'm just checking what it says. Power word kill. It just says die instantly. It doesn't say anything about dropping to 0 hit
Well,
points.
then you couldn't.
No.
That answers that question.
All right, guys.
Rip you.
Die instantly is such a.
It's got the same energy as then perish.
Yeah, honestly.
Yep.
I guess even being this cool monk that can stand in the face of all sorts of danger, dragon's breath, all sorts of crazy things, and just live from it, doesn't matter. Someone points and says you, and you're gone.
There is no defense against the deplorable word.
The deplorable word.
The deplorable word.
I want someone to actually define what that word is.
Because in terms of verbiage, though, to bring up another feature, so the half orc has relentless endurance, which says when you are reduced to 0 hit points but not killed outright, whereas the defy death doesn't say that. It just says when you get to 0 hit points, doesn't actually specify the killed outright. So I guess from that, it is a bit of a buff compared to the half orcs feature there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Half orc monk though. Get one for free, basically.
Oh yeah. Until Power Word Kill just shows up and says
Well, yeah,
goodbye.
Power Word Kill is just
Says fuck you.
an intelligent, 20th level encounter enemy is going to probably keep one of those on hand if it has them. And be like, oh yeah, monk. Ah.
Oh yeah, you fell from my like massive fireball. Okay, you have less than 100 hit points right now. Goodbye.
You fool.
Rip.
Oh, I'd
Okay.
forgotten about the Half-Orc's Relentless. In that case,
Yeah.
the Monk's Capstone is a somewhat improved feature of something the Half-Orc gets at level 1.
Yeah, when you look at it like that, yeah.
Oof.
I mean, it's basically the Half-Orc's
monk-
feature with like a built-in 3rd level cure wounds? 4th
Yeah,
level? Anyway. Oh well.
Well, you can do it more than once as well. whereas the
That's true.
My favorite thing with the half orc though, because you can combine it with the half orc feat. I always forget the name of it, but that lets you make an attack as well as being when you reduce to 0 hit points, which is always clutch,
Mhm.
especially as a paladin, because you can just like, okay, I'm gonna go down anyway, so let me just burn my like highest level smite right now.
For sure.
That's the half orcs fuck you too ability.
Yeah, it is. Jack was on the other end of that quite a lot in our Curse of Strahd campaign.
Curse of Strahd is just so fun, but it gets cruel real fast.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's our 20th level feature. So that does finish our monk. Does anyone want to say any final comments?
I mean, I like some of them. I don't like some of the other ones. Definitely feels like it's going to be a little more fun to play in some aspects.
Yeah.
Like I've played a monk into higher levels. I had fun until I was hitting a lot, but I wasn't hitting hard. And sometimes like that's like the make or break, is because you can hit things a lot, but like you could just be doing chip damage, and then Jonathan Spellcaster shows up out of the woodwork. Here comes a fireball, ends
Yeah.
the day. So it definitely feels like it's going to be a little bit more flavorful and fun to play.
Yeah, the monk, like as well as some other certain things in D&D, if you have a DM that's gonna like set you up properly to like do well and shine and trigger those like niche features, then yeah, and that's what your DM should be doing, I think, at the end of the day.
Oh, for sure.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
That kind of like, are you giving us all a hint there, Sammy?
I've never. Monk is one of the classes I haven't played yet, so I will be getting around to it. I'm sure one of you will be DMing me when I do. What I would say though is I think so I'll preface this with the fact that Ranger is my soul class and my favorite class, but the Ranger and the Monk were the unequivocally the worst two classes in 2014 5th edition. And I think when you look at the Ranger now compared to that, it's night and day, so much better. But I don't see those same changes with the Monk. I don't think they buffed the Monk enough when you compare it to how they buffed the Ranger. So I do think it needs more.
I
Um,
agree with
I-
Jack on that. It's like you said, they got rid of the crutches but never fixed the legs.
Yeah.
The problems at the early levels with the starting features, I think, as well as some of like the core stats of the monk. Like I do like where they've got their quick short rest. They can take a minute to regain their key. I'm not too worried about the key situation with that, but I am still worried about the core. They still don't have that much hit points. They still don't have that much armor unless they really optimize. And a lot of their basic features, don't really get them as high as they should be. I mean, if we just take a look back at Step of the Wind, like it's cool that it's now a disengage and a dash, but it still costs a key point, and the rogue could do one of those just for free and at the same level. And the monk can't do either for free. It has to use this key point to do both as a bonus action. And I think really, if you're going to have something that's going to be worth a whole key point, I'd want to have disengage and dodge. Unironically, disengage and dodge as a bonus action for a key point. Like I'd be happy with that. You can have your offensive flurry of blows, and you can have your defensive patient defense disengage. But unless we get something like that, the rogue's gonna have problems with its core.
Yeah.
It definitely feels like a step in a right direction, but I feel like they could just be stepping a little bit more.
Yeah, armor class is a huge problem with
But the-
monks.
The monks should have a D10 hit dice for me. It doesn't make sense.
I
for
feel that, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Agreed. It's a martial class.
Honestly.
I mean, it doesn't really fill any other role than a martial class. It should be, it is meant to be upfront and personal. Granted, it has the mobility. It has the ability to get up there, hit, and then get out of, range if necessary. But in the end, it is a frontline fighter. It should, I agree, have a fighter's hit points, because I mean, you have your standard tank can right off the bat come out with like an 18, the 10 dex and 18 armor class. And come on, guys, let's step it up.
I don't know if I agree with their main thing is about being a martial class. I think
Oh.
their main role in a party up until today has been
The
their
monk.
toolkit is their toolkit is designed to like deal with multiple opponents, but in a way that spellcasters can't really, in like being able to, okay, I'm going to go stunning strike that guy, I'm going to use my mobility to get over there, and I'm going to use a shove attack on that guy, so on and so forth. It's that sort of crowd control that they kind of specialize in.
Yeah, but that's part of the problem, I think, is. So now you're pointing out that yes, the monk is more or less designed to deal with multiple opponents, which means now that also puts them in danger, potentially, from multiple opponents. Those stunning strikes don't work. If all of that fancy thing, all those fancy things don't come to pass, and they still put themselves in danger of like 4 opponents, well, now they have, they don't have the armor class or hit points to then resist those 4 opponents should they all attack them up.
Oh no, I fully agree. D10 hit dice
Well,
all
that's what I mean.
the
It's
way.
like they could get themselves into a lot of trouble and not really be able to get out of it again. So I think, yes, their mobility, they are more of like a crowd control thing. But that being said, maybe they should have a little bit more ability to resist that crowd that they're supposed to control.
Or it'll probably just end up like one of those things where they'll put something like that in a subclass, and that just becomes the default. As I've seen many times with like the really powerful subclasses, just this is the one people play, and nobody plays the other ones because it just provides better.
Yeah. You're never gonna see like a strong monk. They just don't really exist. Why would you do that? Why would you take strength over
It would make it even more
dexterity?
Strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, so, which I think also defeats the purpose, because you have athletics is a strength-based skill, and every monk should have athletics because that's how they train. So I always thought it was kind of like, I don't know. You're right. They are mad, and in a bad way.
Yeah.
Mad
All
and
right.
bad.
Yeah.
I'm gonna jump right into the Druid. And yeah, let's start off with the class group. So the Druid is classed as a priest. Its primary ability is Wisdom. And in terms of hit dice proficiencies in armor, compared to the 2014 version, the hit dice is the same, proficiency is the same except for weapons. They are now trained in all simple weapons, but they've lost proficiencies with scimitar. And in terms of armor, at a base level anyway, you now only get light armor, but you still get shields. In terms of starting equipment, you can start with a Druidic Focus, which is a quarterstaff, an Explorer's Pack, a Herbalism Kit, leather armor, shield, sickle, 9 gold pieces. Or you can forego all of that and choose your own starting equipment with 50 gold pieces instead. I've got a little bit of a change log to get through, and then we're going to hyper focus on some of these features. Some of them will be skipped. So if you're watching and you want to want us to talk about them in chat, please let us know. And also same for my DMs. Yeah, so to start off with, Channel Nature has been cut in favor of restoring wild shape at 2nd level. Druidic now also makes you have Speak with Animals prepared. Primal Order is a new 1st level feature which lets you improve your armor and weapon proficiencies of your spellcasting. Wild Shape has returned to 2nd level. The feature has returned to using beast stat blocks as opposed to kind of these premeditated templates that you could alter here and there. We actually discussed that in episode 3, so if you want to go and watch that, feel free to do so, but most of that content seems redundant now. So yeah, the feature has returned to using beast stat blocks like the 2014 version, and has new rules for how you interact with those stat blocks. In addition, using Wild Shape is now a bonus action for all druids. Previously, that was just moon druids, and swim speeds are available from the beginning. In terms of spell casting, this has one noteworthy change. Spell preparation is no longer tied to the level of your spell slots. And like in the 2014 version, you'll have a table, and that'll tell you how many prepared spells you can do at whatever level you're at. Wild Resurgence has moved from 15th level to 5, which is a big change, and has been redesigned. The new feature answers the desire to have more flexibility between using Wild Shape and spells. Elemental Fury is a new 7th level feature, allowing the druid to increase their effectiveness of their cantrips or their attacks with weapons and Wild Shape. Commune with Nature is a new 9th level feature. Improvised Elemental Fury is a new 15th level feature, improving whatever option the druid chose for Elemental Fury. And finally, Archdruid now includes the ability to turn unexpended uses of Wild Shape into a spell slot. It's also returned to 20th level, like I said before with the monk, replacing the epic boon feature. And it says here that the epic boons feats will return in a future UA, but they won't be built into a class levels progression, which is basically what I said in the first half. So yeah, so we're going to start with Primal Order here. Now, if you remember what I just read out about light armor, that might change. So similar to how they were going about it with the cleric, where you can choose kind of like what cleric you want to be, kind of exclusive from the subclass. You now have the magician and the warden. Basically, what the magician does is it gives you an extra cantrip, and it gives you a bump to your nature checks based on your wisdom modifier, which is, I think, kind of cool. And the warden gives you martial weapon proficiencies and medium armor proficiency, which the 2014 version already did have. So we started with Bex on the weapon mastery stuff. We started with Jack on the monk. So let's start with JC and Primal Order. What are we thinking?
I can't see many reasons to take Warden as your primal order, because it just doesn't feel right. Like, just looking at the length of how much you get with the magician versus the warden, maybe if they added something similar to like, in addition, your robust connection to nature improves your athletics checks with your wisdom. I don't know, but it just doesn't feel great. Magician feels good. Magician feels solid and good for class identity and all of that good stuff. But I mean, what are you going to do? Are you going to do warden and then the wild companion instead of like wild shaping? No, if you want the wild companion, you're going to play a ranger. If you want that sort of skill set, you're going to be a ranger instead. I'm not a fan of it. I like the broad concept, but the execution, not great.
it's a hot take from Jordan there. I personally
Pretty
like the
spicy take.
I personally like the nature check thing because obviously
Yes,
when you're playing a
God,
druid,
thanks.
you're investing in wisdom, right? So you don't
Mhm.
really kind of go towards intelligence, and it's nature's an intelligence check, and you think, well, surely all druids are good with nature, so it does help with that problem that most druids kind of have. But yeah, did anyone else want to take the reins on
Oh,
primal order?
I
Yeah,
would.
go.
So the magician thing. First of all, I don't like the term magician.
No.
It kind of leans towards an arcane bent. I would have said something like wellspring, because you are literally like a source of natural magic. The power of nature flows through you, like wellspring. As opposed to a magician. Just seems, I don't know. I'm just not. I'm not settled on wellspring either. But the term magician doesn't feel right for me for the name of it. As far as the intelligence nature thing, I think that's amazing. That should have always been a thing. And I just, you are intuitively and magically connected to nature. You should have that bonus. So that's awesome. When it comes to the warden's a good term, I think, for that. Why are you laughing?
Okay, I got to share this. I knew I walked into that trap as soon as I said that line.
What line? What did you do?
So, so my oh my goodness. My girlfriend's watching who plays a druid, and I
Yeah.
just said I just said about 2 minutes ago that all druids should be knowledgeable in nature, and she just DM'd me saying not all druids are proficient in nature. And as I said it, I was like, oh shit, yeah.
You know what? Just take the thing out of magician. Just make all druids are proficient in nature checks. Just make it a class thing.
Yeah, you could do that too.
I mean, your wisdom modifier will typically be roughly about where your proficiency bonus is.
Exactly.
Like plus or
That's
minus
true.
1.
Exactly.
That's true.
I agree there. As far as the warden, not sure how I feel. I can see it. I'd have to really break down and look at all of the different subclasses to see if it fits in there. I mean, I can see it being like, I picture the warden being like Wolverine when he's living up in central Canada. He just lived out there, was an ultimate combatant. I don't see him as a ranger because he was always more like a badger, a Wolverine, literally, or a bear, wants to get up close and personal and just shred you that way. So I can see the warden doing that. I don't know if they should get access to all martial weapons, maybe a list of specific martial weapons as opposed to like all. I just don't see, your a warden druid running around with like a rapier or I honestly, I can see it like as with a trident, because if you're like a of the sea.
A
A
coast druid.
trident. Trident's just a pitchfork missing a prong,
Yeah,
guys.
basically, yeah, it's your giant salad fork.
That was my justification for my Dragonborn Paladin. It's just a pitchfork.
Pretty much, yeah. But I mean, it's like, I don't know, like, again, I don't know if it's like all weapons. The medium armor thing, again, I think I'm really gonna have to look before I just kind of say yay or nay. I want to look at all of the spells that might accompany a warden druid that prefers to spend its time out of wild shape. I think that's
a fair point.
Yeah. I will say in the warden's defense, there are a bunch of later features about increasing your melee damage, enough to make shillelagh actually a decent choice of weapons. So I think the medium armor gives them the survivability needed to fight in battle. It's the proficiency with martial weapons that's getting them nothing. because a druid will usually be better with shillelagh than with any other weapon, including like the dexterity ones they would be using in this case, like a rapier or a short sword.
Yeah, I just don't
So
see
I think medium armor, good idea. I don't think the martial weapons is nearly as generous as wizards think they are. Generous on the cleric, who also have a similar feature, not so much on the druid.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm not so like I think that's probably the biggest sticking point with me too. Is the martial weapon proficiency. I don't see that. Doesn't fit like thematically either. You know,
And it's not great mechanically either. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think
Okay, so
it's a on
So
that
Warden
one.
needs to be better, and we need a different name for magician. I
Yes.
think is the summary on that one. Okay, so I'm gonna give you this next one, Bex, and it's basically the be all and end all of the class. I think it's the wild shape stuff. So just to do a little recap of kind of what's went on here. Like I said in the changelog, this is now a bonus action to wild shape for all druids, whereas previously only a feature for moon druids. So now you have known forms. So you start with three known forms from the beast stat blocks. These forms have to be no higher than Ciara quarter. They have to have no fly speeds, but you can replace the three on a long rest. The number of forms and the challenge rating increases with level, and you unlock the fly speed beasts at 8th. You have 2 uses of wild shape, and you gain back 1 on a short rest and 2 on a long rest. And again, the number of uses increases with druid levels. This is all fleshed out in a table. When you do wild shape, you retain your personality, memories, and ability to speak, which is new. Your stats are swapped with the beast, except for, and there's a long list, hit points, hit dice, your intelligence, your wisdom, and charisma, any class features, special traits, languages, and feats, skill and saving throw proficiencies, but you still gain those of the creature as well. And if the creature has legendary or lair actions, you do not take on board those. You can't cast spells whilst you're transformed, but like it was previously, transforming doesn't break concentration, so you can cast a spell and then bonus action wild shape. Probably a good use of your action economy. And then object / item interaction is at the DM's discretion based off the body of the creature you've transformed into. So I guess a quintessential one for an example there is kind of maybe like a giant ape, where very kind of similar biology to, you know, a humanoid, where they can grip things and things like that. So that's kind of going to determine whether your items are going to work. They can meld into your form, they can be on you, but they can't change shape even if they're magical. So it's just got to make sense, basically, is what they're trying to say there. Just apply a bit of common sense. So yeah, with all that being said, Bex, what do we think? What do we think of wild shape? Good, bad, or ugly?
So there's definitely a lot here. I'm gonna be completely transparent. My first time playing a druid was a stars druid. Do you think I was using my wild shape? No, I was going into starry form. I was busted. Give me a moon sickle. I had like a tier 3 moon sickle. I was just
Oh no way.
I was going nuts left and right. So
Nice.
stars druid Stars Druid, best druid. I'll argue this after the fact, but
My friend Vasenia would agree with you, by the way.
It's so good. It's so good. Anyway, sorry, that's not what we're here to talk about. Wild Shape. So did they like? I didn't look too far in like some of the other ones. Did they just remove it and give something else? Why would you? Like, I'm glad that they put it back at level 2. It's like the thing that makes a druid. Like, when you think a druid, I think, oh, I change it to a bear and go crazy. So I'm glad that it's there and it's back at a lower level where it should be. Bonus action's nice, especially because you can cast a spell beforehand and all that. So be able to use your action economy, like you transform and then you swing as a beast, or you cast a spell and then you transform. So that's always nice. Especially because later you can cast spells as a beast, and that'll be, all sorts of fun things you can do on your turn now. So that'll be good instead of you just move and transform, which would have just kind of if it's your first turn in combat, it's kind of that's it. See, the known forms, I think that's, I guess, in my personal opinion, as someone who hasn't done a lot of transforming, but seen a little bit of it, I think it's fine. I think, being able to just kind of go with the beast block is better than like trying to come up with some weird table for it. Like, just use the stuff that you've already made. Don't make it harder on yourself. If there's a whole list of these beast creatures that you can use and it's reasonable for you to change into it, just do that instead of making more tables that you have to keep track of. It's easier to get a stat block for a riding horse when you know there's already riding horses in your campaign than it is to find a new stat block for some druid that you're fighting against. So there's that. Fly speed at 8th. I mean, I don't think that's changed too much. I think that's fine. Like, having flight is really strong very early on, I've noticed. Aarakocras are pretty goofy, so I think having flight later is fine. And then regaining, were you always able to regain wild shapes at a short rest, or is that only a long rest? Trying to remember.
Just moon druids.
Yeah, so it's taken a lot of the good things from Moon Druid and kind of put them into Broad Druids, meaning that if they remake Moon Druid, it's going to have to be up to par, or else it's just everyone's a minor Moon Druid. All the different things that change out being replaced with the statistics of the beasts, like, kind of makes sense looking at them. You can use the creature's proficiency instead of yours, which is kind of yeah, if it's the proficiency is the same and the bonus is higher, that one's kind of fun. It's a fun little thing. If for some reason this bear that you are is just better at one specific thing than you, so it kind of feels situational. Obviously you can't use legendary or lair actions. I didn't think that needed to be specified, but also I don't think there's a single beast that has at CR1 that has a legendary or like lair action, so
no,
I don't know why. And then the various very obvious things that are still the same, no spell casting, and make it make sense if you're picking up or using an object. That's just obvious. That's just, you're a bear, you can't hold this. So
wait,
yeah.
are you saying that my warden druid in bear form cannot still wield his glaive?
You know what?
No.
No.
In his
No,
But
roll
your warden druid in a monkey form could.
Yeah, oh, certainly. I'd allow the monkey. You know what? If you roll me 3 natural 20s in a row, I'll let you do anything you want.
That's it. I'm doing a druid monk warden, and
Oh.
I'm going to basically create the monkey king.
Wonderful. It's going to be so fun to watch and so fun to make encounters against.
Yep.
I ain't DMing you for that one.
Oh no.
I wouldn't worry too much. The baboon is an armor class of 12.
Yes,
I mean, you do
armor.
get pack tactics. It's not an absurd suggestion, especially as you don't use the baboon's 3 hit points. You use your own.
Wow.
I
was wrong, by the way. Previously, all druids got both wild shape uses back on a short rest. So that is
yeah, that is definitely a little bit of a nerf.
Slight nerf, yeah. Yeah, what are the 3 of you think? Because I know we looked at the previous druid and we just had so many things wrong with those tables. And I think what was wrong with the 2014 one was it was kind of like, well, you can be anything, but you've had to see the creature before, but then, well, I just write in my backstory that I've seen XYZ creature, and then, jobs are good. So you've kind of got this like balance, I think, now. And I would still encourage my players to say, well, if you start with these 3 beasts, tell me about them in your backstory. Tell me, like, how did you interact with them, and it doesn't make it as convoluted. because you're just 3. You can change it out, of course, but there's only 3 there at a given time. So, yeah, what do we think, boys?
Why a riding horse?
Why
All the
not?
druids
Easy-
who... Well, they
easy
focus on the
transportation.
wild. A riding horse, a spider, and a
not?
wolf.
Horses are wild animals.
They specified a riding horse.
Yeah, because I don't have a wild horse stat block.
Yeah, you
Just
got war
saying.
horse, draft horse, and riding horse.
Okay, so...
Yeah, all the horses of
You
domestication
know what?
in their name.
We're gonna dissolve all the horse stat blocks, make it wild horse, and then you have like a separate table for domestication. We'll make a new table, guys.
Why not do something like a
Absolutely.
deer or an elk or something like that? Why a horse?
Does 5e have deer or elk creatures?
They
Well,
do have elk.
Yeah, they have elk.
They do have elk. Okay, I was gonna say they don't have because they might just not have it.
I mean, that's just the recommended starting thing. It's probably so that a new player comes along and is like, okay, I can turn into a horse and a spider and a
I would
wolf,
like
so
to be
I
your
wanna-
mount.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to turn into a horse and I'm going to run in, shield them with my body, and let them get on me so I can get us out.
Could
I mean-
also be movement speed. Elks only move 50. Horses have 60-foot speed.
Right.
So
I'm just
maybe...
thinking thematically. That's all. It just seems weird.
Yeah.
It's like riding horse, spider, and wolf. 2 very wild creatures. And then the local nag in the barn next door. That's my example of nature that I, as a
think
druid,
he's-
will follow.
Uh,
I know.
Listen.
It's just it's piddly. It's I'm not really. It's kind of I'm just kind of like trolling it, but it just
Oh,
seems
yeah.
funny.
They they do read your feedback, so you can tell them that the stat box should be the spider, the wolf, and the bababoon.
There you go. And the baboon, yes.
I
Yes.
actually wouldn't mind if they included an aquatic creature, because I think they've removed the requirements
Yeah, you
on
get a swim
needing to be
speed.
4th level for
Yes.
swim speed. So I think that would actually be good to telegraph to new players that fish are in by including that as one of the recommended starts, or like a
Man.
crab or something.
Bass.
Can't wait to at 8th level to turn into a dinosaur.
I honestly, I
Yeah.
would like to see, in some way, shape, or form, giving druids the ability to actually turn into a monstrosity. I would love to see an owl bear druid. I liked that about the movie, and I think it's very appropriate for druids. Like in some way, shape, or form, have them, if they actually encounter and or defeat an owlbear, or have a subclass druid that gives them access to certain monstrosities, even if it's a limited list.
Yeah, like
I'd like one that
in
could do plants.
like in Pathfinder, actually. That's one of the things I really like about the druids there, about like what you can transform into. You could become an elemental, you could become a plant, you could become a monstrosity. And I always thought that was really cool, that it's not just you're attuned with nature on like across the planes. And I just thought that was always really neat.
I agree with that too. There should be elemental stuff. Isn't there an elemental druid? Like, isn't it a subclass, isn't it?
No.
The moon druid used to be able to wild shape into elementals, and I haven't read the newest release, but they couldn't in the first playtest for them.
No, they didn't. No. What they did say, because I did watch that interview with Jeremy specifically on the druid, he said, because it's Circle of the Moon, they wanted to make sure that the theme of the moon and that lunar theme actually carried through the subclass this time, whereas it didn't really do that in the 2014 version.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So that's one thing they wanted to make, change going forward.
The Circle of the Moon druid should have like a lycanthropic kind of war form, I think, in that regard. Like look kind of like a werewolf or a werebear, were-tiger, etc. And actually have that kind of like combat ability. And certainly it is a focus of theirs, is like to use wild shape to fight. And if they're focusing on the moon, why not, throw in lycanthropy? Lycanthropes.
Yeah. I mean, wild shape really, in my opinion, unless you're playing a Circle of the Moon Druid, is mainly going to be for utility, or you're going to use those slots to fuel, your other features like your star forms and
Right.
your what's it called, symbiotic entity and stuff like that.
For your ability to fight with a
Um,
glaive as a
Your
warden.
ability to fight with a glaive. Yeah. But yeah, well, we'll move on, and we've got Wild Resurgence. So what this does is it means you can trade wild shape uses or first level spell slots and vice versa, similar to how a sorcerer can with their font of magic, where you can turn sorcery points into spell slots and spell slots into sorcery points. So again, it just gives you a bit more utility there. Obviously, Jack, this one is on you. What do you think?
Yeah, so I haven't really played a druid for long, so I think I just did it like for a one shot. So I'm not really sure how people find the number of wild shape uses. Certainly 2 per short rest, though it will increase to 3 at 6th level. Does seem like it might be a bit limited, and you might gain some benefit for being able to transfer slots to uses. But I think I'd be more likely to end up swapping uses for slots, and in a way that works similar to the Tasha's clerics and paladins harness divine power, where they could convert their channel divinity into slots. Not quite as effective, as you only get a first level slot back, but I think it's like a reasonable feature, and will help to avoid running out of wild shape. In fact, it would be very difficult to run out of wild shape as a druid if it's tied to your slots as well. So you get a nice little transference back. I guess it means that now all druids can effectively get a first level spell slot back from a short rest by using these
Yes.
transferences.
Yeah, and obviously you can use that on a like a fairy fire or a tangle, which are really good first level spells there.
So I'd be inclined to think the main use of this is wild shape uses to spell slots, but I'm sure people will get some benefit out of it the other way. And in either case, it's a nice little feature.
Yep. Thank you for that one. Let's do Elemental Fury. So again, you kind of have a choice here. You can either go Potent Spellcasting, which lets you add your Wisdom modifier to your cantrips, or you can go Primal Strike, which means that your weapon or beast attacks cause an extra 1d8 damage, and you can choose Cold, Fire, Lightning, or Thunder for those. However, they only apply once per turn. And at 15th level, this kind of this feature gets a buff where any cantrip that you use, which has a range of 10 feet or more, extends to 300 feet, and your primal strikes now do 2d8 extra damage. So a little bit of a damage buff there. Jordan, you're next in line to the throne, so take it away.
Oh man! All right, Elemental Fury. Potent spellcasting feels really good, and so does Primal Strike. Honestly, they're both really good, and if they do continue with the Magician and Warden, I mean, you've kind of already got yours selected based on what your primal order is. If you're Warden, you're going to take Primal Strike, and if you're Magician, you're going to take Potent Spellcasting. Like, but mechanically, they feel good. The 10 feet or greater, or bumping it up to 300 feet, that is a big thorn whip. That is a real big thorn whip. And the increase in damage on Primal Strike, it feels about right. It tracks with other similar features like Blessed Strikes, so on and so forth. So it feels comfortable. Yeah, I don't have much else to say. It's a good path forward. I feel like it does tie a bit too closely to the primal orders. But yeah, it's a good feature.
Yeah. Would any comments on like the positioning of it? Because this is a thing that you get at 7th level. Obviously, the buff comes at 15th as well.
I think that these
Yeah.
features should come at 5th, 11th, and 17th level, in order to bring the melee damage increase in line with the cantrip damage increases. As for what you do with Wild Resurgence, you just push that back to 7th level. I think it's fine at 5th, fine at 7th, and the Druid doesn't get anything at 11th and 17th level, other than the usual spell casting stuff. So
Yeah.
I think you could do that rearrangement and it'd be fine. You might have to come up with a new feature for the 17th level one.
Yeah,
but
I was gonna
it's
say,
just
like, you'd have to have
cantrips do
one
something
more.
slightly different.
Yeah, because
I'm just glad that there's now a reason for the Druid to use Shillelagh.
Ah,
There was always something pillaged from their class, and now they can use it.
this
All
is
right.
true.
I've only got 2 words. Thunderglaive. It's coming.
You don't know. Yeah. It sounds like. All right.
Fear.
Last feature is Archdruid, which makes sense because we're giving this to Matt. Old joke. So
Embossed up.
basically, you gain 1 wild shape back when you start initiative if you don't have any. 2 wild shapes count as a 2nd level spell slot now for conversion, but you can only do that once per long rest. And you age more slowly, so 10 years are only equate to 1 year for your body. What are your thoughts on this, Matt?
Okay, there we go. So, the naming on some of this stuff. Evergreen wild shape. So I like the idea that you are never really without a wild shape. You know, you can be completely exhausted, and I mean, mechanically, you're like, oh shit, I'm gonna flee from combat. I'm gonna run until I'm no longer in initiative, and then you come back and you have to roll initiative again. Give me another wild shape back. But no, honestly, if you're caught and you have to run, get into initiative and you have nothing left, the fact that you can get one back is nice. Whether you use it to actually, shift your shape or a spell slot, it's good. I can see that being more of the magician version of a druid, because you're going to be spending, I think, more of your wild shapes for spell casting. So that's nice. And the fact that you can actually use wild shapes to convert to 2nd level spell slot is cool. Let's see. To produce a 4th level spell slot. So you can do basically what it's saying. From what I'm reading, it's saying that if for every 2 wild shapes you expend, it upgrades the spell slot value of it.
So if you use 1 wild shape, it's actually gets you a 2, like a 2nd level spell. So you get 4
Yeah.
wild shapes at that level. So you could just
Yeah.
choose to expend all of them, and that's an 8th level spell.
That's pretty buff.
Yeah.
If you're not,
That's goofy.
yeah, that's pretty badass. So obviously I think that's one of those things. If you are playing a nature magician, you so it's great. Okay, that's awesome. If you are a nature magician, does it really benefit you if you're playing a warden magician? I mean, a warden druid. If you went more warden and you're coming in with your Thunderglaive, is that really going to help? I mean, and again, I'm gonna have to go through all of the spells available to the druids now and see what that. I know I'm kind of focusing on the warden thing, but I think it's more of like a way for me to justify ever actually playing one because of what it offers. Yes, that is amazing for a druid that focuses on spells. Not so sure if you're playing a warden. And the longevity thing, that's pure flavor. To me, it's okay, sure, that's fine. That's a really long that's a really old fucking elf druid. So yeah.
I mean, hold on. So you can exchange for an 8th level spell. One of the 8th level spells is animal shapes. So you can give up all 4 of your uses to turn give your entire party wild shape, essentially. But up to challenge rating 4.
Oh,
That's still kind
no.
of cool.
And then you can get a
that's
wild shape
really
back
good.
when you roll initiative.
Yeah,
That is
that's
kind of
really
cool.
fun.
But
You just burn that 8th level spell and go, all right, that's it. We're all dire apes.
so honestly, though, when I look at that longevity thing, if you are playing an elven druid, that is an old son of a bitch.
Immortal, damn near.
It's like 10,000 years.
That's insane, and that has a big impact, at least, especially on my homebrew campaign setting. Yeah.
That was one thing I was sad about Monk. I noticed that they took away the fact that like you can't like you can now die from aging and all that stuff, and you're not like just this transcendent person. I'm like that's some flavor I'm missing.
Well,
Give me the spice back.
Yeah, the monks, you still died of old age, but you were never weakened by age. So in other words, it harkened to that whole, oh look, it's this like crusty old dude that looks like he's 100 years old, then comes and still kicks the shit out of you because martial arts. And then the next day dies because it was his time. So
it was just his time.
You know, he Yoda's
kill.
So, yeah, that longevity thing is going to change things for my game, at the very least.
That's the classic anime, like, old geezer trope, you know? Like, Master Roshi from Dragon Ball or Netero from Hunter x Hunter.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So, yeah, I think that's probably my take. I think it really focuses on the magician side of druids while really kind of just ignoring the warden side. Like the more I read about this is like, what is the point of a warden? Why would you even do that?
Yeah.
Like they didn't do anything for it.
Ensnaring strike.
Vindicated.
I'm just saying they didn't do anything for the warden. It's like, oh, you could be a warden version, but it doesn't really do anything past whatever level you chose being a warden.
Well, you do get you would get the damage bump. But like, why would
Thunderglaive? Yes.
Why would you? You just, if you wanted to be martial though, like you just wouldn't go druid and do that because you only got one attack.
You play a fucking ranger.
Yeah, the ranger's so good. Like, you just wouldn't not play the ranger.
I'm gonna play a warden druid now, just because.
Just to spite.
My favorite flavor, spite.
I'm gonna be that class. The Thunderglaive is coming. Sammy, you're one shot, so I'm moving to. I'm going to be playing a druid now.
Oh, is that what we're doing?
Good luck. Have fun.
Just a party that is a warden druid, a ranger, an Oath of the Ancients paladin. All just similar vibes.
They just all have the same little vibe, and it's just. Yeah. I love my Oath of Ancients paladin. I was so happy with that.
Oh, so do I.
So bad.
Does anybody have anything to add on the druid as a whole? Some final thoughts compared to the last one? Is it better, middling, or worse?
I think it's just better.
I like it. I definitely think it's. Again, I think a lot of the changes that they're making are like, we're going in good directions. Definitely Druid feels a little better in its changes than the ones that they did for Monk. But it's nice. I think maybe it'll encourage me to not play Star Druid and just burn it all in my starry forms.
I miss Channel Nature, but
Mhm.
I can live.
What was Channel Nature like? That's the one I did not read.
Make up your own
Channel-
animal.
Oh, okay.
No. Channel Nature was essentially channel divinity for druids.
Oh, okay.
And
Just play a cleric.
yeah, well, it's because they're in the same group now. They're in
Oh,
the
yeah.
priest group.
Well, wasn't Channel Nature how you used your wild shape, right?
It was. You spent charges of channel nature
That's
to do
that's
wild
why I was
shape.
saying. It's basically make up
Yeah.
your own animals.
I guess.
Yeah.
I guess just
But additionally, it had like other ways you could spend it, which was comfortable.
okay.
I think I've got the original one open here.
Maybe that's why
Yes.
they added in like, either going the magician path or like the warden path to kind of like
Yeah.
let you
Make them more
diversify
like
it.
the cleric.
They need to do more with the warden. That's
Yeah,
what I'm
I feel
gonna
like
say.
maybe
Mhm.
like for like for the 20th level Archdruid, instead of like a nature magician, they have like nature warden as well. Like you could choose which one you take once you hit that level, and that way you could have like big spell casting, or you can burn multiple of your wild shapes to get bigger CR creatures. Like you can use it and up your CR, so it's not just CR1. You could hit like CR4, which is the equivalent of that 8th level spell slot that you could get.
Yeah, the
and then
warden
just
should
do
be the
that.
side that you maybe get access to things like, monstrosities.
Yeah, something like I feel like that would be a really nice change where you could be the cool spellcaster, you could be the big buff creature feature. So
Right. Exactly. Focus on the if you're gonna give them access to like, melee combat, give them access to melee combat. Don't just give them access to weapons that they're majority of them aren't even gonna use. And
yeah.
and actually give them like maybe a limited list of weapons that they would choose, and maybe even give them an extra attack later on down the road.
Hey wizards, call us up. I'm tired of working in food service. Give us a ring. We'll know what to do.
Like figure that out. Figure that shit out.
Yeah, Matt, just hit Jeremy Crawford up, and you got the contacts.
Yeah, I'll get
You know
Yeah.
Gary
I'll get
Geiger.
right on it. I'll get on that.
Yeah.
There was a time when I did have the contacts. I had several friends that worked for Wizards of the Coast. I even play tested 3rd edition at a
Crazy.
convention where my friend brought the player's handbook and the dungeon master's guide in a 3-ring binder that he had to sign out and couldn't show anyone. We had to sign NDAs and all that stuff.
Nuts.
So yeah, it was pretty ballsy. So there was a time when I had connections within that community. No longer. Someday.
Hit us up, wizards. We're here. We're waiting.
All right, let's go. Let's move on to the Paladin then. I will add a disclaimer that my prep for the Paladin and the Cleric isn't as good, but we'll make it work. So so the Paladin, like the Druid, is also a priest, member of the priest class group. Its primary abilities are strength and charisma. Hit dice proficiencies and armor are all the same in comparison to the 2014 version. And in terms of starting equipment, you can either start with chainmail, a holy symbol, 6 javelins, a long sword, a priest's pack, a shield, and 9 gold pieces, or you can forego all of that and take 150 instead, which is, as far as I'm aware, the highest stats number's been. So paladins are rich. And yeah, so what I did with the previous ones, where I read out the whole change log and then we dived into specifics, we'll go through the change log and just dive into those as we go. Some will just be short, some will be longer. So so lay on hands, the quintessential one of the quintessential paladin abilities, is now a bonus action. That
That's
seems
awesome.
That seems pretty cool. We'll just do a free table on these as well at this point. So there's not much to say. I think we all agree that's pretty good.
That's good.
Mhm.
That's a good change. They did it.
You
It
can
keeps
use it in combat.
Best
it keeps the
application of it.
action economy. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty nice. Next one is spell casting. So this has 3 noteworthy changes. The first one is that spell preparation is no longer tied to the level of your spell slots. That's a common theme throughout all of these classes that have spell casting. The second one is the paladin can change 1 prepared spell upon finishing a long rest. It's a slight nerf because previously spell preparation, just you could prepare the full new spell list again the next day. This is now saying you can only change 1 out on a long rest. And the third point is cantrips are no longer included. And the rationale that they've gave is the paladin instead gets weapon mastery at first level. Priests normally don't get this, but paladin is the exception to that rule. So yeah, some buffs, some nerfs, some horizontal changes, if you will. What do we think of spellcasting?
I think that giving weapon mastery instead of cantrips is fine.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's fine. Like that makes more sense than giving paladins cantrips, honestly. So,
Mm.
at least in my opinion, I don't know. Maybe there's like some cantrip casting paladin wannabes out there.
Well,
I-
you could go like booming blade or green flame blade, but once you're at level 5 paladin and you get extra attack,
So why bother?
it's not gonna it's not gonna scale. There are certain armor classes where it does actually make more sense to booming blade or green flame blade, so you maybe miss out there, but it's very niche. So I don't think I agree with you, Bex. I think that's better just to have weapon mastery.
I think the biggest problem with the cantrips is now your human paladin no longer has access to light.
Heartbreaking.
Or actually, the
Get a
one
torch.
the one I'm gonna miss for a paladin is Sacred Flame, or now that it's been confirmed, Toll the Dead is going on the divine list. Those two, because sometimes as a paladin you struggle to get into melee, and
Yeah.
I'll have to go through the feature list, but I think they stripped some of the ranged options. So actually,
Javelins, Jack. You start with javelins. Duh.
Yep.
with a range of 30 feet and then a long
6 of
range of
them.
120. Now, sometimes you need a Sacred Flame. I mean, it's fine. It's only a magic initiate away, but yeah, I think weapon masteries are more appropriate. It's just I will miss that ranged option.
Anything from anyone else on spellcasting?
I think the important stuff's been said.
Yes. Okay, I just wanted to pull this up because I'm just double checking. Which you take immediately after hitting a target with the melee weapon. Yes, so Jack is right. Divine Smite, which is now a spell. Previously, it let you use that with range attacks, but it now says casting time bonus action, which you take immediately after hitting a target with a melee weapon or an unarmed strike. So that no longer applies to range attacks, which is something I think when we covered this previously, we all liked that. Just to see some more different paladins on the field, because you don't normally see your archer with the smite. But that's something that they've obviously thought about and decided not to go with. Yeah, so the next thing is weapon mastery. We've obviously covered that at the start of the stream, so we don't need to go there. But I think we all agree that's cool for the paladin there, just to give him a bit more versatility. Paladin Smite, formerly called Divine Smite, now gives you a list of Paladin exclusive Smite spells that you always have prepared. So like I just said, Divine Smite, which was not a spell, quote unquote, is now a spell, along with your other classic ones like your Blinding Smite, Searing Smite. They're all still bonus actions, but you don't need to proc them before you hit. You can proc them when you hit, like you could with Divine Smite in 2014. But like I just said, you can only use those on melee weapons or unarmed strikes. Which I don't know how that interacts with like Wild Shape now either. Because you can't now because they're actually, you can't Divine Smite because it's a spell, so you can't use them in Wild Shape. So yeah, thoughts and feelings on that.
I don't like this one. Maybe I just have paladin nostalgia from being able to just burn my like pretty high spell slot and just smite down something, but I just don't know how I feel about this one.
Well, the spells scale, don't they?
Do
They
they?
still they still scale, I thought.
Scales the same way.
scale-
They changed it down to a D6, and now it's back at a D8.
The issue that you do get with it being a spell is because it takes your bonus action. You can only do it once per turn.
Mhm.
So previously, if you had like extra attack, you could attack, smite, and then if you had like a pole arm, something like that, you could bonus action and then also smite on that one as well. So your action economy is a bit in tatters now.
Divine Smite can now be counterspelled.
Yes.
Oh shit, that is true.
Mm-mm.
Well,
Lich
it was
is-
always a bit weird whether Divine Smite was supposed to be magical or not. But because it was like not a spell, it didn't fit that very well with the other smites, whether they could be counterspelled or Tiamat would ignore them or that sort of thing. Or, I think Tiamat. It's vague whether Tiamat could ignore them.
Yeah, and whether you could like use it in like an anti-magic field or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at least
Well,
it
I
clears
guess it
that up.
clarifies it.
Yeah, but I think overall it's a nerf.
Yeah.
Um,
A little sad moment for
Yeah.
the paladins here, but I mean, I guess like the other smites have like cool different effects to them. So
yeah, they're more
Mhm.
useful now.
But this might make Virla sad for the Saturday game. When this eventually comes out. I'm sorry, Virla,
Listen.
you're just not going to be able to bisect that beholder zombie quite as
Who-
easily with
listen,
your.
who says you gotta move to this new system? Who says you gotta move to it?
Just saying, like she's
Sure.
badass when it comes to these smites.
They're nuts. No, they're significantly less nuts.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't know. I guess I think putting them as a spell just kind of brings it in line with any other source of magic. You know, it can be dispelled. You know, is it worthy? Is it worth using a dispel for something like that? Who knows?
Banishing? I
Well,
mean,
banishing smite, yeah. When you're getting into like the
Mhm.
higher level stuff, yeah. You
Yeah.
know, that kind of stuff. Yes, I do not want to go home. I would
don't send me home,
counterspell
please.
that. So, you know, yeah, I guess. I'm kind of nonplussed either way in regards to the Paladin Smite, I think.
All right. There's a channel divinity rule in regards to multi-classing. So if you have more than one class with a channel divinity feature, a class's use of the feature can only be expended on that class's channel divinity options. Hopefully that makes sense.
So clerics and paladins have two different channel divinities,
Yeah.
Yes.
as
Or you
in
can-
two different
Eventually.
pools.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you
Okay.
can you can only burn your paladin's slots for paladin channel divinities, basically.
Mhm.
Okay. Makes sense.
So
Fair.
that's that.
Yeah.
Paladin subclass levels now match the level progression in the 2014 Paladin, ensuring compatibility with subclasses already in print. I think that makes sense to do that.
Yep.
Considering the whole thing was, it's going to be backwards compatible. So that's cool. Aura of Protection has returned to 6th level, and the aura is inactive if you're incapacitated. I think that makes sense. And did they move it up to 7th? Was it 7th level they moved it up
They
to?
moved it up to 7th because the subclass got brought down to 6th.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That makes
What, the
sense.
aura of protection?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And and the other thing from the previous playtest was aura protection didn't appear to have an end state. It just seemed to be always on. So they I think the previous paladin ended on unconsciousness or something.
Yeah. Think so.
Oh my god, I can try and pull that up.
Yeah, you must be conscious to grant this benefit. So therefore, if you're unconscious,
Oh,
yeah.
There you
Mhm.
go. Okie doke.
I guess it's in a slight nerf from the player's handbook, as unconsciousness is difficult to inflict, but incapacitation.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a
Isn't.
lot more ways to give you the incapacitated condition. So
Mm-hmm.
Abjure foes now does nothing on a successful save. Okay. Aura of Courage has returned to 10th level. That one makes you immune to frightened. Again, that's just moved down again because the rearrangement. Radiant Strikes now works with melee weapons and unarmed strikes, which is a buff.
So previously it was a simple or martial weapon, and now it is specifically a melee weapon. So not like a ranged weapon like a bow, but will include unarmed strikes. It will apply to ranged attacks made with melee weapons, like hooking a javelin.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can smite with javelin.
I
You
mean,
got
strictly the
javelins.
rules
Probably
as
not.
written, you can hook a battle axe, and that's considered a ranged attack made with a melee weapon. You just don't get to add your proficiency bonus to the attack roll because it's an improvised.
Okay. Go on, John.
I like it.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to see some long range paladins in my life, but
Might not
Is-
always come that way.
Javelin of returning. Done.
Restoring touch has been moved to 14th level. Okay. Divine conduit has been removed. Wait, what is that? Did I cut that off? Has been removed in favor of aura expansion, returning to 18th level. Let me just pull that up. Oh, so that
Divine
just means
conduit?
your aura protection now extends to 30 feet rather than 10 feet. That's what
Yeah.
it is.
And Divine Conduit was whenever you roll initiative, you gain one use of his class's channel divinity. That's what's been
Oh, okay.
okay.
shoved out.
Mhm. So just small changes really to the paladin there. Nothing too
Yeah.
major to what was already released in the UAs.
No.
Jack, anything to add? Look
So
like you do.
the first playtest paladin was considerably buffed over the player's handbook, and what this is reining in these buffs. Now, so it's more in line with how the player's handbook, the 2014 paladin, was. It's stronger in some ways. It's got the weapon masteries. It's got the faithful steed. It's got abjure foes. But it's also weaker in some respects. Divine Smite is like a bonus action now, and the aura ends on incapacitation. But I think it's now fairly comparable to the player's handbook paladin, because I mean the first playtest paladin was quite powerful.
It was.
Yeah, so I think this is probably about where the paladin maybe should be.
Yeah. I'm okay. I mean, obviously, once it gets like put in the games and stuff, you get to see more of how it works against like actual monsters and having more and more people. It's a playtest, but I'm sure like once it actually gets playtested, they might either see it's good where it is. I'm sure some people are gonna be like, well, I don't like it. Smite thing's gonna have a lot of people hurting.
Yeah, I think that's probably going to see the yeah, I think it's going to be the biggest point of contention with current paladin players will be the smites.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and to be fair though, like some of the Nova damage you could do is stupid. Like if you got like an enemy like paralyzed and you just had 3 attacks on them and you could smite on all of them, like it just ruined a. You could just ruin a boss monster in like 3 attacks.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about there, Sammy. Just watching Virla's paladin in the Strixhaven game go to town. It was like, okay.
Yeah.
I
It's
also don't think the bonus action thing is too bad either, because 2014 Paladins didn't actually have that many uses for their bonus action. They could use them to cast a smite spell, which is often what they would get used for.
Mhm.
And as a result, a lot of paladins ended up drifting to the towards the Polar Master style to give them something for their bonus action. So I
Thunderglaive.
think, yeah. So
It's a
yes,
theme
so
for the
I think now giving them a use for their bonus action means that you will see a greater diversity of paladins. The ones that do use the glaive and the halberd are going to do them for their reach, not for the polar master feat. Although they might do it for the polar master feat. That thing's a half feat now. It was already one of the best feats, and it got put into like a half feat, and I haven't seen any changes on that.
Just saying, there's Thunderous Smite. So there you
Mm.
go. The Thunderglaive for a Paladin. Still valid.
It's all about that Thunderglaive.
broadly, this is another case of the changes feel good for your permanent DMs, but not so much for the players.
Yeah.
But I think for players, we'll get used to it.
We'll just
Yeah.
get over it. No, sometimes you just gotta get over it.
The changes
Yeah.
are healthy.
Yeah, they're clearly making a conscious effort to remove like degeneracy from the game, because there was a lot of stupid things you could do in 5e, and Paladin going Nova was one of them. So that's fair.
Definitely trying to make it more fair across the board for what you're playing, but for those like Paladin apologists.
Yeah.
Oh no, maybe I'm just a little bit of a Paladin apologist. I've done some silly numbers. I've watched some silly numbers.
It really
the
is
same.
so.
Absolutely wretched dice rolls, I'm telling you.
Yeah, you don't even like it's. You don't realize just how powerful paladins can be in those combats until you actually see it happen and somebody gets like one of those ridiculous rolls, like Virla out there. Yes, you definitely know your character, and they're literally walking holy nukes. You know, it's ridiculous. So maybe
think
this kind of reins it in. I don't really think it's going to affect it too bad.
Yeah, you're still gonna get your hype crit moments, but you're not gonna get stupid 3 crits in 1 round moment.
Right.
You know, that's not gonna. Well, you might get 3 crits, but you're not gonna be able to smite on all of them. So the numbers are gonna rein in. But yeah, so I actually asked Jack for my birthday if he would run an all paladins one shot for me. So the plan is for me to play my paladin from his Curse of Strahd campaign, Grimjaw. Jordan's gonna play his current paladin. Vela's gonna play Alithia. Tamara's gonna play Xanthia from Theros, and we're just gonna have a great time.
Oh my god.
So
Yeah.
much Paladin.
Yeah.
I have insisted that the auras overlap in the way they do in one D&D. Otherwise,
You can't
big
stack
saving
auras.
throws.
Yeah.
Jeez, do they? Do they stack?
They do.
Not in this
2014
document.
In 2014,
Not in
rules
this
is
one,
written.
they don't.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Red has written current rules. If you got multiple pallies, you
Or
got a lot.
Aura stacking, so Paladins are goofy.
It's like everyone make sure you're staying right back to back. Like move
Once
as a group.
that 30 feet radiuses, that's a whole party just posted up.
Yep, pretty much.
Just Roman tortoise formation through the dungeon. That's how we're gonna survive.
I'd be interested to see the outcome of that birthday game.
I will let you know. I'm excited. Yeah, let's get cleric done really quickly. Let's blast through this. So yeah, as you've probably seen the running theme, the cleric also belongs to the priest class group. Its primary ability is wisdom, and in terms of hit dice proficiencies and armor, these are all the same as the 2014 counterpart. For starting equipment, you can start with a chain shirt, a holy symbol, a mace, a priest's pack, a shield, and 7 gold pieces. Or you can forego all of that and take 110 gold pieces instead, which is a 40 GP decrease from the paladin. Paladins are the rich babies.
Just
So
take your
yeah, and then
starting gold and retire. Buy an inn.
let's get into the change log. So Channel Divinity, this has returned to 2nd level, and its number of uses now increases with your cleric level and isn't based on your proficiency bonus. In addition, you regain 1 use whenever you finish a short rest. The healing and damage of Divine Spark has also changed, and Turn Undead now uses the incapacitated and frightened conditions. Finally, the multi-classing sidebar has a new rule for Channel Divinity. So the thing I noticed there as I was reading it is your number of uses increases with cleric level and isn't based on your proficiency bonus. Obviously, that's like a multi-classing nerf there. I mean, it's probably good for the game, but yeah. Anyone else want to dive into this before I just babble on?
For the health of the game, I guess.
Well, I'm not sure it was necessary because the
Oh.
channel divinity scales with level in 2 ways. As you the damage and healing increases and the number of uses increase. And I think it's okay so long as the number of uses is tied to the cleric level for the damage to be something more something more tied to the character level with the proficiency bonus. Because now this feature is effectively it's really bad for multi-classing, whereas before it was just like a decent feature that you would just only get twice per long rest.
Do we know what the damage and healing differences were to the previous one in regards to Divine Spark?
So it used to be proficiency bonus of d8s. Now it's some d8s plus your wisdom modifier. So it's about the same because your wisdom modifier will be like about a d8 at most levels of cleric.
So it's 1d8 at start, 2d8 at 7th level, 3d8 at 13th, and 4d8 at 18th.
Plus you whiz every time.
So it will do. Oh, actually, that might be slightly lower then. If it only goes up to 4d8 rather than 5.
And then says Turn Undead does frightened and incapacitated now. What was it? Do we know what that was previously as well?
Just
Thought it was just frightened, wasn't it?
It was just frightened. Okay, so that's a buff then.
Yeah, incapacitated is really good.
I think it was it not dazed before?
Oh,
yeah, it might have been dazed as well. Hold on.
Yes.
As far as I'm aware, they're still keeping dazed in the game, so it's not like they've just got rid of it.
I think it was dazed. Yeah, it was dazed, and they had to move away.
They were turned, yeah.
Yeah.
But what did
That was a good one for getting opportunity attacks to trigger, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it had to take the dash action.
Where is Turn Undead hiding?
But dazed is one of the new ones, right?
The new condition, yeah.
So what so with the new conditions, dazed, what does dazed also do? Does dazed actually do something else?
I'm just trying to
Like what? How much did they actually lose here?
Oh, here we go. Dazed. So you can take a move or one action on your turn, but not both. You also can't take an action or reaction. So you used to take away their bonus actions and reactions, and then force them to use their actions to move away, which could trigger opportunity attacks because they had to use the dash action. And now it just leaves them frightened and incapacitated, but unable to flee the field.
Yeah, so it brought frightened back and removed dazed.
Gotcha. I think that's actually more appropriate.
Yeah.
Personally.
I will say frightened doesn't do a lot if the creature's already incapacitated. But maybe like there's some monsters that were immune to the incapacitated condition somehow.
That is also a possibility.
All right. we'll move on. Cleric subclass levels now match the level progression in the 2014 Cleric, except for the subclasses now starting at 3rd level. So again, that goes back to the whole restructuring. So it's got that backwards compatibility, but they are putting the foot down still on every subclass being at 3rd level.
Okay.
Fine.
Which is it's
You know,
probably good for the game, but
I will no longer have to hear in a party starting at level 1. Yeah, can we hit 3rd? And I'm like, what have you done to hit 3rd? It's like, I just want my subclass. And it's like, you know what? Fine, we're 3rd. And I want to just be like, okay, now you all collectively could wait till 3.
Yep.
You're starting as commoners. You're gonna make your way up to adventurers.
Be a scrub.
That's
You're a
evil.
scrub. Just be a scrub.
Why would they give me these easy peasy, like, CR 1/8 enemies if it's not meant for you guys to fight them at a low level? What do you want from me?
Yep.
It says the next one is Smite Undead now uses your Wisdom modifier rather than your proficiency bonus, and we've also clarified that this damage doesn't end the turn effect on an undead. That's pretty nice.
That's neat.
Nice. Well, that makes sense too.
Means you can keep going at it.
Yep.
I'm happy.
It's basically the same source. If you make them afraid and smite them, they should still be afraid.
Oh yeah.
And I
They're
think
afraid, they're incapacitated, and they take damage.
Yeah, because it's because because turn undead ends if the creature takes damage. So
Right.
if your turn undead also damages them, you need to clarify. Otherwise,
Otherwise,
No.
it's just a little silly and a waste of time.
mhm.
Right.
All right. Blessed Strikes now lets you choose Divine Strike or Potent Spellcasting. In 2014, a subclass gave you one of those features. In this playtest, you now get a choice. I think that's a good, smart move.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Nothing much to say there. I think that's just good mechanics.
Mhm.
Commune is a new 9th level feature. So let me pull that up.
Yeah, let's go down and look at Commune. Is the
So it
9th level, right?
says,
Yeah.
Yeah, it says in the
Yeah.
past you have reached the divine source of your power through prayer. Now you can also have brief conversations. You always have the commune spell prepared.
Yeah. Easy.
Unless they've changed commune, which I don't.
I
believe
want
they have.
the extra statement on that of this does not count towards your list of prepared spells, which I think is the intent with
Yeah.
that.
Now
But I
you,
want them to specifically
Yeah.
state it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree.
it should be. It should really be. But basically, if you don't know, commune is a 5th level spell with the ritual tag. Takes a minute to cast. And basically you contact your deity or divine proxy and ask up to 3 questions that can be answered with a yes or no. And just reading the rest of the text to see if it's okay. And there's some stipulations, but that's basically
It really
main.
should just say this spell
Just-
challenges your dungeon master's improvisational skills.
Yeah, I mean, I that's one of the big things I like about D&D is people are unpredictable, so it gives you a good chance to test out your improv. And also, like, I've seen it myself with people who like have a god, like their character has a god that becomes like a big part of their character in backstory writing, and then I never see it.
Mhm.
Pray to your gods. Why have one?
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
But then,
Yeah.
with Commune, it's like, okay, literally basically divine intervention.
Yeah.
You're basically petitioning the dungeon master to come
like-
and answer a question or do a thing.
You know what? Just have it be no every time.
Again, that's like it's such a flavorful moment though, just waiting to
It
happen.
is. It is.
Mhm.
But it
Yeah.
is also something like, that a cleric can do fairly often.
Well, yeah, it's a ritual, but there is a stipulation at the end of the spell. It says if you cast the spell 2 or more times before finishing your next long rest, there is a cumulative 25% chance for each casting after the first that you get no answer. The GM makes this roll in secret.
Yep.
Sounds about right. Kind of same
God
rules.
says no.
But yeah, I think spells like Commune, Augury, things like that can be really clutch when you
Yeah.
don't have all the answers and you
Mhm.
just need some you need some divine intervention.
Yeah.
Divination was my go-to with my Stars Druid, because we were in this
Mhm.
terrible situation. Like, let's ask God.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my God wasn't a great deity, and kind of led us into trouble multiple times. But it's fine because I did the role playing thing.
Okay, so that was Commune. Improved Blessed Strikes is a new 14th level feature. So let's recap that. So the option you chose for your Blessed Strikes grows more powerful. Divine Strike, the extra damage of Divine Strike increases to 2d8. And potent spellcasting, when you cast a divine cantrip and deal damage to a creature with it, you can give vitality to yourself or another creature within 60 feet of yourself, granting a number of temporary hit points equal to twice your wisdom modifier.
That's kind of cool.
Kind of fun.
It's good.
I don't think the same as with the Druid. Good features allow for some melee play, but I'd still rather have them at 5th, 11th, and 17th level. Although I think the Cleric now has subclass or something's at 17th level, so there might
Druid,
actually be
Subclass
some
feature.
space issues there.
There's a subclass feature at 17.
Yeah. Yeah, so that depends on the different subclasses now.
hmm
Oh shit, like life domain, supreme healing. When you would normally roll one or more dice to restore hit points to a creature with a spell or channel divinity, don't roll those dice for the healing. Instead, use the highest number possible for each die. For example, instead, whatever. You get it.
Yeah.
Maximizes the spell, basically.
To round out, it says Divine Intervention and Greater Divine Intervention have been redesigned to allow reliable results. This was the most requested change for these features. So Divine Intervention, you can call on your deity or pantheon to intervene on your behalf. As a magic action, choose any divine spell of 5th level or lower that doesn't require a reaction to cast. As part of the same action, you cast that spell without expending a spell slot or needing material components. You then can't use this feature again. So it's a bit more streamlined as to what you can and can't do. And then Greater Divine Intervention, you are able to call on even more powerful Divine Intervention. When you use your Divine Intervention, so many Divine Interventions, you can choose Wish when you select the spell. If you do so, you can't use the Divine Intervention again until you finish 2d4 long rests. When you cast Wish with this feature, you are immune to the stress caused by the wish to do something other than casting a spell. Okay.
Oh, shit.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's good.
It puts less stress on your DM, I think, to be like, is this overpowered or what you're requesting?
It also means you can't cast Wish at 11th level by getting very lucky.
Yeah, that was always the thing. It was always really unreliable, and then the DM had to sort of know what the player wants, and if the player doesn't know what their character actually wants, they just want a solution vaguely to something, that can that can cause problems. So it's nice to have them a bit more streamlined and a bit more reliable.
I just realized
Yeah.
that life cleric 17th level ability, you don't have to do anything for that except be 17th level, and you always heal for the maximum amount.
Yep.
Crazy.
Period.
Life cleric's nice. And then the last thing is Greater Divine Intervention is returned to 20th level, as we've just seen, replacing Epic Boon, which, as I said before, had been removed from class progression, but are still going to be present going forward. Any final thoughts on the Cleric before we wrap up today?
I think the turn and smite undead's pretty cool. Making them not only do you get to frighten them, incapacitate them, so when they become unincapacitated, if that's possible, they're still frightened, and then just doing damage to them is kind of nice. Kind of feels like a cool I'm a paragon against the undying, so let me do this cool thing.
backing
Yeah.
up a lich with your will, that is pretty cool to think about.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah, I
think,
agree.
yeah, I think the cleric's similar to the paladin, where it just needed some fine tuning there,
Yeah.
compared to the previous UA. Um, so, so yeah, that is gonna round out things today. We've covered weapon mastery, weapon mastery, and the 3 priest classes. There is still so much more to cover in this UA document. There's even things in UA5 that we just didn't get around to covering for one reason or another. So you can definitely expect more streams to focus on those, and hopefully next time we'll have Rhiannon joining us as well. I'm gonna let her off because she's in, I believe, Belgium doing like a really special event for Baldur's Gate 3. So that's cool as fuck. So
Yeah,
yeah,
she gets a pass.
go Rhiannon. But yeah, hopefully we'll have her on next time. There isn't really set schedule for this, but hopefully we can schedule the next stream for as soon as possible. But yeah, we'll do plugs
You
and
know,
shit to round
Sammy,
out. Yeah. Hello.
at some point we should take this group and actually run a playtest,
Oh, I know what
playing
you're
with
gonna say.
different classes, and actually see how these things work, various
Not a bad
levels.
idea.
Which means you, sir, as the host, become the dungeon master.
The stress. I can
What
feel
do
my
y'all
urge to
think?
bite
You
my
think we
nails.
should do
Oh,
something
I
like
think it'd
that?
be fun.
See
I
these things
like-
in action.
I like
yeah.
DMing, but it stresses me out because I'm a perfectionist.
You know what? I feel you. It's hard. It becomes like when you're a player, you have your character and you work
Mm.
on that, and then you have when you're a
Yeah.
DM, you have everyone else's characters, your NPCs, your world building, your bosses, your monsters. It's just a lot. I get ya.
Yeah. No, Matt's right though. That would be cool. We'll have to see what we can do because we've got all the classes released now. So
Nope.
in have we not?
We
think
don't
we do.
have fighter, warlock, sorcerer, or wizard in this UA.
Well, they are in Playtest 5,
Yeah.
so there is at least a
Are
version.
they?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. We've
I
got
I
at least
did
one
not
version
see
of
the
all of them.
warlock.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
The
fair.
the Artificer's not there yet, but they've sort of hummed and hawed about what's going to
Yeah,
happen.
didn't they
with
say
the
they weren't
Artificer.
going to release the artificer at start anyway?
PHP. Yeah.
Mhm.
Aw, I like Artificer though.
Yeah, they're covering guns already in here.
Exactly. Why don't
And
they have the Artificer?
the artificer is, you have an artillerist. Why wouldn't you throw that in there? That's part of it right off the bat. I don't know. That's them. I think they should add the artificer. If they're going to make it a basic class, make it a basic class.
Mhm.
If you do want to see me DM though, you will be doing so in October because I'm running a 3-shot over Halloween.
Ooh.
It's a 3-shot that Jordan and Jack have already played in themselves. I'm gonna change it up a little bit. Jack's gonna give us a hand on that just to streamline it, make it a bit better. But yeah, so you will be able to see that, and it will be here on Matt's channel. It should be spooky, scary, and bloody.
Ooh.
Bloody.
Bloody. Should be bloody, lad. But yeah,
Right.
let's do some outros. Plug what you want to plug, and we'll start with our new honorable guest, Bex. Take it away.
Hi. So I don't necessarily stream myself. I am a DM over on a friend of mine's channel, it's Relentless Zen on Twitch. We stream almost every Thursday playing Descent into Avernus, in which we are still not in Avernus on session 15, but it's fine. It's okay. Other than that, you can find me on Twitter under Sizzly NaCl or Sizzly Salt if you know your chemical word phrasing thing. Forgot the words, it's fine.
Formula.
Yeah.
Your chemical
Formula.
composition, yes.
Thank you. Someone knows words. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
Nice. Let's go, Jack.
Hello. So I DM with the Fate of the Dice stream on Twitch. We're doing a bi-weekly Curse of Strahd stream that will be resuming this Sunday on the 9th. And that's where I can be found.
Very nice. JC.
Hi there, I am the DM for Bridges and Brigands. You can catch Matt as a player and Sammy as another player over there of the third Sunday of every month, which means that it's what is it? It's the 16th that we'll be playing next. Week after next. I need to prep.
Start now.
I already have, don't worry. That's me.
Nice. Well, I'm gonna go next because we'll end it with Matt because Matt can end the stream because it's his stream. Before I plug in for myself, I just want to say a big thank you to Bex for coming on and doing this. You've been great. It was hard work getting in contact with you in the first place.
I don't
but
really use a lot of things because I didn't think anyone would ever want to reach out to me in that capacity. So
No, I seen you doing your thing with Descent into Avernus, and yeah, no, it was good stuff. And thankfully, your DM passed the communication on. But yeah, so you can you can find me. You can find me on Instagram and Threads at Sammy by the Gram. You can find me on Twitter if I'm still using that. At Sammy on the Bird. You can find me on Twitch at Sammy Go to Twitch. And if you like actual play D&D live streams, like I said before, I play in Matt's Strixhaven game, which airs every Saturday at 1 p.m. EST, where I play the Frost Elf Blade Singer Charlotte Briar song. And like Jordan said, every third Sunday of the month, you'll find me over there on Bridges and Brigands, where I play Countess Adelheid Elvanis von Zigrak Aya II, the half-drow hexblade warlock with a very long title.
You're a little bit of everywhere, aren't you?
She's like that. And yeah, I think that's it for me. So yeah, Matt, take us out.
That's me.
Tell me about yourself.
First of all, thank you, Visenia Designs, for the raid. I apologize that it, for the timing, but yeah, that's Visenia. For those of you who don't know, Visenia is my channel's official artist. She does all my like token artwork, sketches, and stuff like that. I'm eventually gonna have her do some overlay stuff. She's done a lot. She's redone my logo. I mean, she's amazing. So if you haven't checked out her artwork, you need to definitely do that. And Visenia Designs. So let's give
You got it, or do you want me to do it?
Yeah. You got it. So yeah, check out her channel, all her stuff. And you can see her work in my games. So, and also she just had a birthday last Thursday, so it's a little belated, but if you didn't know that, so feel free to shout it out and say happy birthday. I had the pleasure of actually running a one-shot haunted house for her birthday on that day, and it was pretty awesome. If you're familiar with anime tropes, it was a truck-coon themed birthday. So she found her way into my D&D world via a speeding truck. Just came by, took her out, sent her right into D&D. So yeah, it was amazing. It was a lot of good fun, and I'm glad I got to do that for her. So Truck-coon for the win. So welcome, and I apologize that we are literally on our outros. We just finished. We started at 1 today. So you'll be able to actually catch this on the VOD in a couple of days. So it'll be on my YouTube channel. But as far as my outro goes, first, before I leave, I wanted to once more plug the charity that I'm supporting, which is the Trevor Project. It is an amazing charity that goes above and beyond to provide resources and services to at-risk people among the LGBTQ plus community. And right now that is vitally important with the current, socio-political, landscape that they're currently dealing with. So if you have the ability and the inclination, please donate. The link is down below in my About section, and that would be greatly appreciated. Keep aware as well that there will be goals, like there'll be goal rewards and stretch goal rewards, such as like one shots and the potential for a battle royale with all of my cast members from all 4 games. I don't know how I'm going to logistically do that, but it's definitely something that I'm going to figure out nonetheless. So keep your eyes peeled. This is our Beyond Pride charity stretch, so we're taking it beyond Pride Month and probably longer. So yeah, if you can help, down below, check the link out in my About section. As far as me, I'm Matt. I'm RolePositiveGaming. I do all things D&D, and I try and, with the help of my amazing casting director Sammy, reach out to and bring together, make it a little closer, the TTRPG community at large, and just try and spread positivity and make sure the space stays open to everybody. So that's me. You can see my schedule. Actually, when this closes, it'll be right up there. You can check it on my Twitter, or soon to be, what is it, Thread now. We're all going to Threads. We're gonna go stitch up Elon Musk on Thread. All right. So join me there. You can find me on Thread now. I gotta update all my socials. Jesus. All right. But that's it for me. Next game that you will be able to see me in and Sammy is this Saturday on my Strixhaven game from 1 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And perhaps even like Virla, and watch her just obliterate anything that I throw at them, because she's a current version Paladin who just smites the shit out of everything and criticals multiple times.
We'd love to see it.
Yeah. So yeah, guys, thanks for being here. This was awesome. You know, showing up, sharing our ideas and our opinions. You know, dungeon masters getting together and sharing their ideas and collaborating on like things like this, like rules discussions, just makes the space better. We all benefit from collaboration, so I appreciate you guys being here. And sorry we miss you, Rhiannon. Because next time,
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about still.